And thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do. His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Julian Assange walks free from Belmarsh prison.
The WikiLeaks founder agrees to an American plea deal.
He faces a judge tomorrow before returning to Australia, capping a dramatic 12-year legal battle.
Princess Anne continues her recovery in hospital, but worrying reports this morning reveal she may have memory problems after being injured by a horse.
Officers under investigation as the Met Police are accused of leaking the identities of Conservatives caught up in the election betting scandal.
Rishi Sunak has blasted Sir Keir Starmer over migration, claiming illegal migrants are queuing up in Calais.
No EU U-turn from Labour as Sir Keir Starmer promises Brexit will be safe.
And heating up, we head outdoors and make the most of the summer heat wave, but just how long will it last?
Hot and sunny for many, but not for all today and tomorrow. How high will the temperatures climb? I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
And in the sport this morning, what England will we see tonight? The free-flowing attacking one, or is it going to be the boring sitting back one? Well, we'll see as they play Slovenia tonight at 8 o'clock. Italy scored a last-minute equaliser against Croatia last night, which pretty much puts them out of the Euros. And in cricket, England now know that on Thursday they'll play India in the T20 World Cup semi-final.
Well, it's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast. So what do you make of the Princess Anne story?
Well, it develops all the time. First of all, we were told she was out on a walk and she fell or got injured. Now it appears that a horse has been involved.
Incident.
Did a horse kick her in the head?
And she's got memory loss. She doesn't know exactly what happened. 73 years old, though, no joke at that age, or any age, really. All engagements have been cancelled. We're told she's recovering well, but, you know, if that was my mother, similar age, I'd be concerned. So we wish her well this morning.
I'd be concerned if it was anybody.
No, I agree,
Wouldn't
absolutely.
want a
But in your
horse's hoof.
70s, you don't want to be having a hit like that. So, yes, we will be covering that in full a little bit later on in the programme. But, you know, I guess it's a reminder of how dangerous horses can be. Even if you are a very able horsewoman, which she is.
I mean, she was Sports Personality of the Year after her Olympic wins back in the 70s, 76 I think it was, to do with that, and very, very capable.
And she was astride a horse just the weekend before at Trooping the Colour.
Astride.
Astride a horse.
Astride.
What would you say? Atop a horse?
She was sitting.
She was riding a horse.
She was astride.
She was astride a horse.
In her jodhpurs.
In her able.
Yeah, but we wish her well. She is a very, very popular royal. We begin with some breaking news overnight. Julian Assange, he's the guy that founded WikiLeaks, has been released from prison and has left Britain after accepting what is called a plea deal from American prosecutors.
So, papers filed in the US District Court for the Northern Mariana Islands, that's an American territory in the Pacific Ocean, yesterday revealed that Julian Assange will plead guilty to just one felony charge in exchange for his immediate freedom.
Now, it's expected that he will return to Australia then, following the whole hearing, bringing to an end a dramatic period in which he spent the past 5 years behind bars after being evicted from the Ecuadorian embassy following 7 years refuge there.
Well, Assange's wife, Stella, released this video following his release yesterday.
It's exactly 12 years today since Julian went into the embassy of Ecuador, which granted him political asylum, protection from persecution, from torture, from a life imprisonment. And 12 years on, I'm visiting Julian in a high-security prison. But this period of our lives, I'm confident now, has come to an end. And I think that by this time next week, Julian will be free.
Well, a huge moment for the Assange family. Of course, he fathered 2 children whilst incarcerated and has never really spent time with them. They've only ever known him behind bars. So from a family perspective, that will be something that he will obviously...
Why has it come to nothing after all this, after all these years, after all that hiding away and whatever, and now... nothing. This is going to be a technicality, and then he goes and lives his life in Australia, as it turns out. But there we go. He's as guilty as sin.
In your opinion?
He's totally as guilty as sin. Of course he did all this. I mean, depends. Was he breaching security doing this, letting all these secrets out?
Was he a champion of freedom of speech?
Yeah. Well, he's not speaking for me, so I don't really care. But there we go. But I wouldn't want to spend 12 years stuck in the Ecuadorian embassy or whatever. So there we go. Joining us now in the studio.
Well, we've got Anna Mikhailova, but we'll be discussing today the campaign.
Yeah, but before we get to the campaign, I want to talk about Julian Assange.
Oh, right.
Yes. So, what's your view on Assange?
My view is it's very good news this morning. I think people were waking up to it thinking, oh, that's come out of nowhere, because people were expecting the worst, frankly, that he would be sent to America and be rotting in prison there for the rest of his life.
Why is he not? Why is this all died off?
Well, so they've made a plea deal. He's agreed to plead to one charge of espionage with the Americans, and I think the reason why not is finally people have woken up to the pressure that frankly not enough people have put on this appalling case. I really don't agree that he was a journalist, frankly.
Do you accept that? I find that interesting, because a lot of journalists don't accept that, because just because somebody publishes everything into the public domain doesn't necessarily make him a journalist.
I think reading it this morning, and I've written a little bit about this, but it's not really my remit, Eamonn, like this. But certainly I have followed people like my colleague Peter Hitchens who have championed him and really called for this to happen much sooner. And I think when people look back at this, they're going to be really appalled at how it's been carried out and what's happened. I mean, he has been in Belmarsh in 23-hour-a-day isolation, and I think that in itself is just absolutely appalling. But
he was an incredible threat to national security. He put people's lives at risk. He compromised military operations. I don't really see what the argument is.
I mean, I think that's debated, and I think the fact that he also brought to light things that were embarrassing to his government. I mean, I think a lot of people will say that is journalism. I think just purely from a UK perspective, The Guardian did a lot with Julian Assange and then just walked away from it. They benefited hugely from what he was putting out.
Well, OK, thanks for your view on that, Anna, and we want to know what you think about that as we develop the programme throughout the morning and get reaction to this. Now to the campaign.
Oh, good. OK, well, the Metropolitan Police are facing scrutiny today. They're alleged to have leaked the identities of Conservatives involved in the election betting scandal.
OK, and away from that scandal, you get to see more of Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer. Last night, there was an election showdown hosted by The Sun newspaper.
Here's what they got.
Either you believe illegal migrants should not be in our country, they should be removed to somewhere else, or with Keir Starmer, they're all going to be released, all the people we've detained, and they will be out on the street.
And nobody but nobody should be making that journey across the Channel. Nobody. It's a breach of our borders. It's also, I think, a matter of national security.
Well, we've made the NHS and care the centre point of our manifesto with a huge package of £9 billion of investment. Partly that's in GPs and local services, so people don't have to go to hospital quite so much.
What type of boiler do you have at home?
At the moment, I have a gas boiler, and I'm literally in the process of getting quotes for replacing it with an air source heat pump.
This is what Boris said. Boris blames the European Union for war in Ukraine.
Well, swallow that, Boris. Let's get Anna's view on all of that. Of course, that's in response to Boris Johnson criticising Nigel Farage for pointing out the technicalities of what was going on in Western Europe.
Yes. Obviously, this has been a row that is continuing to unfold. And, I mean, the really interesting thing is, will it start to filter down to voters? I suspect it will. I suspect people will start to... This is we've got 10 days left until the election. This is normally when a lot of people lock in, finally, and start looking at all this and saying, well, I sort of was interested in reform before, but do I really want to go there, particularly with these sort of comments? I think the next few days will be kind of crucial in the way this story develops.
This is where the gloves come off, isn't it? Where it all starts to get a bit...
Well, I mean, the debates last night, you did see Rishi Sunak have a bit more fight in him. I thought he was sort of.
I don't know if it was. I think he looked irritated again. It was.
You think?
Yeah, I think he was just like rolling his eyes. I mean, sort of this frustration. I've been Prime Minister for 18 months, I can only speak for my own record. And I suppose he just wants to talk about the future and the plans and I suppose his own record. But of course, because the Tories have been in for such a long time and presided over, so many disasters, many of their own making, he couldn't do what he wanted to do and talk about those things.
True, but I think he still... I think his team probably would have been happy about last night because he started off slightly on the back foot, particularly about the betting scandal. And then he sort of started laying into Starmer, saying people were queuing, lining up in Calais, expecting a Starmer
And
government.
what evidence has he got to back that up?
I don't think there's a huge amount of evidence to back it up. I think it's a very political attack, but that's exactly what people want him to be making at this stage. I think there's been some criticism that he is focused very much on the tax side, which has been talked about and are very correct, proper questions to ask, but... now he's getting a little bit more personal, he's getting a little bit more attacky.
Where are we at with this gambling scandal? I see the Lib Dems want the government's ethics advisor to see if any ministers have placed bets, and Scotland Yard now implicated as well, and even a police officer there under investigation. So, how much longer can the Prime Minister sort of kick this can down the road?
Well, there's an extraordinary story at the Telegraph today saying that it's actually five police officers are under investigation because we knew that there was the close protection officer, Sunak's close protection officer, and the Telegraph has been told by its sources that because the Cabinet Office is conducting its own internal investigation, and it says part of it is essentially finding out where the leaks are coming from, which is something that people in Westminster have been talking about a lot. So the Gambling Commission has been ruled out by the Cabinet Office, apparently, as the source of this, and now they're turning to the Met, because the Met, apparently, were told before each of these things came to light, who, including the politicians, and the politicians' names have been leaked. The police officers obviously haven't. I mean, if this is true, if the police are found in any way to have been involved in leaking this information, it would be extraordinarily scandalous, because effectively it would be election tampering.
Goodness me.
Ed Davey continues to tamper with the election. Different outfit every day, different dressing up. He's like, who was that, Mr. Bean or so? Who was the? No, you won't know. Anyway, there was a Watch with Mother programme. The guy dressed up as something every day, and that's what Ed Davey seems to be doing. Yesterday he was dressed up as an ambulance worker, and there he is.
They all do it, don't they?
It's a knockout challenges that he does. I mean, I actually think it's ridiculous what this man does. He's an intelligent, sharp man, but his whole campaign's going to be remembered for him dressing up day after day.
Yeah, but one thing he is not dressing up as is a postman note.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Good point.
And I think all of this is just to draw attention from the fact that what a lot of people were associating Ed Davey was the post office scandal.
Right, so the idea of his campaign and what he does and these stunts that he does, you say, is to just avoid referring to the time when he was responsible. What was his position then? He was
the minister in charge, and
in the coalition government.
He didn't, they were just big. He finally apologised. First of all, obviously, so many ministers were implicated very, very badly and came out very badly of all the parties. But his role, particularly, I think, because his failure to apologise in a timely way, people really didn't like. And in the run-up to the campaign, he was keeping quite a low profile because of that. So, I mean, listen, maybe he would have done these stunts anyway, but I just find it interesting that everyone is talking about that. No one is mentioning his role in the post office, and that's probably by design, or at least welcomed.
OK. Anna, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. We'll speak again later in the programme. Thank you very much.
Now, where has the sun been? You were asking me in makeup. I had a lovely sunny day yesterday, but it hasn't reached your part of the world.
It was quite cloudy
Yeah, well,
yesterday.
it was sort of a bit muggy. It was definitely hot. I don't know that it was beautiful blue skies all day, but summer feels like it's finally here. And, of course, the Met Office, previously saying this could be the wettest summer in years. Now they've issued a heat wave warning, saying temperatures are set to hit 31 degrees Celsius in parts of the country. So what do we do? What should we be preparing for?
That is the big question. So who are we going to put it to? We're going to put it to Tamsin Green, weather and a meteorologist at Weather and Radar. Tamsin, good morning to you.
Hi.
Today hotter, brighter than yesterday?
Yeah, so I mean, Monday to Thursday this week is going to be what we're seeing as possibly a heat wave for some of us. So we are going to be seeing hot weather Monday to Thursday, and the peak of those temperatures at the moment does look to be on Wednesday, when we could be seeing, as you say, temperatures reach 30, perhaps 31 degrees locally.
I'm just looking at the front of the paper, and this is the Telegraph, how to dress for a heat wave. And, we do suddenly have to change our wardrobes. We've had these high winds, we've had really wet weather, and suddenly it's really muggy, certainly in the capital. And it's just a complete change, isn't it? And it could be short-lived, as you say. By the end of the week, could be back to our autumnal clothing. But what are your top tips to stay cool over the next few days?
Yeah, exactly. And it is such a short period as well. So from Thursday, things will be cooling down, fresher winds coming in from the west. So in order to stay cool, I mean, to be honest, it's going to be hot. It is going to be unseasonably hot. Temperatures are going to be above average for the time of year, 10 to 12 degrees above average for the time of year for some of us. And, obviously our infrastructure isn't built for this kind of heat. We don't have air conditioning. We don't even have ceiling fans. So, we've got these fans that we can plug into the wall that really don't do much use circulating the air whatsoever. So, in order to stay cool, you've got to do just simple things like keep the blinds or the shades down in your window so the heat doesn't come in through the window, but also circulate the air through the day as much as you can. We are kind of stuck with how much we can really do, as a nation, though, because our country isn't necessarily built for this really hot, humid weather.
And we all go a bit silly, don't we? Everybody's sort of so excited. Mad dogs of Englishmen go out in the midday sun. It is worth, I suppose. But then there's other people who get upset that we offer advice and say that this is a nanny state and we should all be able to just take our own risks. I mean, it's striking that balance, isn't it? But, you know, it is stark when you look at the number of hospital admissions related to high weather in over 65s. You know, I suppose it is noteworthy, if not worthy of a warning.
Absolutely, and we saw that last year as well. We've seen that previous years, and so this year we have seen the UK Health Security Agency release one of those heat health warnings, and that is mainly applied to people over 65, the vulnerable, the elderly. You know, those indoor environments become very warm. There's going to be increased use of healthcare services. So yes, for some of us, it's not going to be impactful, but for some of us, it will be.
Enjoy your day. Thanks very much indeed for the preview.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom on this Tuesday morning. The Institute for Fiscal Studies has released its analysis of the election manifestos, revealing whoever forms the next government has big decisions to make over tax and the size of the state. The think tank has accused both Labour and the Conservatives of maintaining a conspiracy of silence, they say, on spending plans.
The search for the missing British teenager Jay Slater is continuing on the Spanish island of Tenerife. The 19-year-old disappeared whilst on holiday last Monday. Yesterday, police were searching a village near the last location his phone was traced, but there's still no sign of him.
A court's heard how a shopping centre security officer hatched a graphic plan to attack the TV presenter Holly Willoughby, not only to attack but to kidnap her, and he planned to rape her. He's accused of creating this plan to knock out Holly Willoughby with chloroform in a night raid, the jury was told yesterday. He was unaware, though, that he was telling his fantasy to an undercover police officer. The trial is expected to continue for 2 weeks.
Well, it is the final week to see how you could win our summer giveaway. £15,000 in cash and a whole host of treats.
OK, the lines will close at 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon, so make sure you don't miss out. Here are the details you will need.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck, have a go. Still to come, we're going to take a short break. We're back with the sport. Paul Coit with that right after this.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
The mystery surrounding the disappearance of flight MH370 has perplexed the planet now for 10 years. But now all of a sudden researchers at Cardiff University have piped up and said, oh, we heard a beep. Aerospace engineer, founder of MH370search.com is Richard Godfrey. Richard, are we going to find this thing?
The new research is much more thorough and gone in much more detail. It is picking up acoustic waves under the water. It's not conclusive, but it's a good step forward.
Is this a cover-up job of epic proportions? Do you think something quite sinister happened to this plane? Because it is all very odd.
I think you're right. It is all very odd. It is. We have a lot of data but we don't have the final analysis, and we won't until we actually find the wreckage. The Indian Ocean is a huge place, 77 million square kilometers. When we find the plane, we can recover the flight data recorder, the cockpit voice recorder. We can learn a lot more.
Do you think someone might have shot it down?
No, the plane flew until it ran out of fuel. The plane was perfectly in working order. There was an active pilot right until the end. So my only theory at the moment is the captain of the plane actually committed a hijack of his own plane. But until we find it, we won't be able to prove that.
We are potentially a step closer now to knowing and to one of the greatest mysteries of recent times anyway, finally being solved. There's aerospace engineer there, Richard Godfrey. Thank you.
Britain's election channel, the People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have saved Storm. You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
To say good morning. Hello, good morning to Paul Coit.
Good morning.
As we look back as to what happened in the Euros last night, a few more quarter-final positions established.
Well, listen, I've got some very good news.
Which is?
England yesterday qualified for the knockout stage of the Euros without actually kicking a ball.
Oh, right.
Because Spain beat Albania, it affects, I could go through all this, it affects third places, which means that should England finish third, they would be one of the highest qualifiers, so therefore, without kicking a ball, they're through.
There's nothing to play for tonight?
Well, there is, because it depends on position now. So if England... I was trying to work out all the different combinations and the way this can work, because really, even if England finish third in this group, they'll qualify. Same with second. If they finish second, then they will play Germany. So you don't really want to be finishing second, whereas if they win the group and beat Slovenia tonight, then there is a number of different teams that we could still face. So that hasn't been worked out. Possibly Austria, there's about 3 or 4 possibles. So we'll just have to see. But you know what they've got to do?
What?
They've got to beat what's in front of them. They've just got to go out and beat what's in front of them. Have you seen the thing is, we were talking about this yesterday, about the whole Gary Lineker situation and also the... basically people getting upset about the fact that they were criticising them. I don't know about you, but I just feel it's got completely out of hand. That's their job. Yeah. That's what they're there to do.
It's just because of Gary Lineker, I think. People just love to bash Gary Lineker.
I don't know what it is.
If it had just been, you know...
Me.
Yeah, it would have been fine.
Well, Gareth Southgate obviously was asked about it, what he thought. So this is what Gareth Southgate said about the criticism.
Listening to external criticism, we know what we've done well. We're very honest about that. We know where we need to be better. We're brutally honest about that. And that's how you work as a team. That's how you coach a team. That's how you improve performance.
And tomorrow's a chance for us as a group to bounce back from the other night. And I think that's the beauty of football, that you always get another chance to go again. And
well, there it is. I mean, there's not a lot said there, is there? It's just your usual, well, you know, we're going to try our best, see what we can do. What we do need to see, which everybody needs to see, is a free-flowing England. We want to see England go forward. We want to see them play football. We don't want to see them sit back. Nobody seems to be taking ownership of that by saying, actually, yeah, this is the game plan. Nobody seems to know, but we just need to see them play to their strengths, which is this amazing forward line and some incredibly talented players. So really, on paper, England should destroy Slovenia tonight.
Yeah.
But whether it's going to be the case, we'll see.
You're talking to what was a very talented player, free-flowing, goal-scoring, and that is...
Steve McManaman.
And what's going to join talking us? To him at?
So he played in Euro 96, played in Euro 2000, 8:30. Steve's going to join us. So we'll speak to him a little bit later as well.
Lovely.
Italy, Croatia, that was 1-1. Luka Modric missed a penalty. then scored, and then Italy scored right in the 98th minute by Mattia Zaganyi. So Croatia now all but out, so it's all over for them today. Netherlands against Austria, France against Poland, Denmark, Serbia, and then, of course, England, Slovenia, and that is at 8 o'clock tonight.
OK.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. Still to come.
We're going through the front pages and the biggest stories of the day. We've got Alex Armstrong and Emma Burnell for that. Stay with us.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding in County Durham on the A19. It's a lane closed southbound where someone's broken down between Wolverston and the Norton interchange at Stockton on Tees. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed where someone's broken down on the eastbound exit at junction 29. For the M1, trains have been stopped between Norwich and Stowmarket because of overhead line problems. There are also trains running into and out of Stansted Airport Station, where overnight engineering works have overrun. In London, Manchester Road on the Isle of Dogs is closed after an accident. In Kent, the A2070 is closed westbound off junction 10 of the M20 for emergency repairs. A couple of problems in Devon. The A39 is blocked where a coach got fire at Barbrook, and on the M5 there's a lane closed where someone's broken down on the northbound exit at junction 27 at Tiverton. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Almost half of those seeking to have an affair are happier with their job than with their primary relationship. But what exactly does a cheater do for a living?
Well, medical assistants and nurses, surprisingly, top the lists of professions for female cheaters, and it's jobs in IT or tech for male cheaters, which I think is less of a surprise.
No.
This is all according to a survey by the dating site Ashley Madison. OK,
so why do people cheat? To answer this, we're joined now by broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. Good morning, Lucy.
Morning, Lucy.
So, is it OK of me to say naughty nurses in this day and age? Am I going to get cancelled for that?
You're out.
Yeah, I'm out.
Been
Gone.
cancelled.
See ya.
There's the door.
But yes, you're talking about the caring professions, and I think it's very appropriate.
Surprised by that.
Women, well, because they're very nurturing, very loving, very giving, whereas the males who are in tech and IT, very strategic.
Is there a link between high-pressure jobs, maybe nurses infamously, you know, they're working long hours, underpaid, stressed out? Is there a link between jobs of that nature and cheating, maybe as a relief?
Absolutely. Is it just about sex, or is it about emotional connection? Is it about emotional validation? And increasingly, people are discovering that their primary relationship is just not a place where they feel safe.
This survey found that personality didn't actually come into it that much. It was about half and half if you're an introvert or an extrovert that you'd be likely to have an affair.
I think that's right. And I think that just speaks to the fact that all people want to have a good emotional connection. So it doesn't matter whether you're really social or whether you're someone who has to recharge your batteries in private time, that actually we only ever want three things in life. We want to feel safe, we want to feel loved, but we also want to feel heard. And in increasingly a number of marriages and long-term relationships, we get into grooves, we get into ruts, and we stop hearing our partner, we stop listening to them, and they stop listening to us.
The People's Channel.
It's the newspapers. Just let's have a look at those before we talk about them. The Times leading with Labour introducing a full ban on what is called conversion therapy. We'll talk about that shortly if it wins the election.
The Guardian says that low wages and price increases have pushed 900,000 children into poverty. It's not actually the Guardian saying it, it's the General Secretary of the TUC being reported by the Guardian.
Daily Telegraph. Scotland Yard has been accused of leaking the identities of Conservatives involved in the election betting scandal.
The Sun leading with a clash between Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer over immigration policy during a leaders' debate last night.
Daily Mail reports on the trial of an obsessed security guard who's accused of planning to kidnap, rape and kill the TV presenter Holly Willoughby. And that's where we're going to start this morning with Emma Burnell and Alex Armstrong. Very nice to see you both. So, Emma, this man who's in the dock and he's accused of this awful situation where he would plan a nighttime raid on the home of Holly Willoughby, knock her out with chloroform and kidnap her.
Yeah, he was planning to take her to a dungeon that he'd set up somewhere miles from anywhere. In the paper, it's quoted as saying so her screams couldn't be heard for miles.
Gosh.
Had detailed plans within this some horrific group that had been found by this American detective online of all sorts of depraved actions that he was planning. And he wasn't just fantasising on his own. He was recruiting people to help within this group. He would send them deep-faked images of Holly. He would, he had something like over 30,000 images of her on his phone. He'd followed her around. These images weren't just these awful sexualised images that had been manipulated, but also ones of where she lived, where she shopped, where she was hanging out. He planned to take a tour of the ITV studios in order to get a better sense of the layout of that. He was not just obsessed, but completely obsessed, but also managed to bring other people into this plot. And I think that's the really frightening part. This isn't just one awful human being's psychotic plan. It's that he managed to get co-conspirators involved.
So he's in the dock. He's being charged with all of this, Emma. How do we have this evidence, these accusations against him? Who did he share this info with where it went wrong for him?
So he was on this online group called something like Abduct Fans, people who fantasise about abducting women. And an American detective infiltrated it and became part of the group, gained their confidence so that he could collect all this evidence. I don't think he went in there knowing, possibly if he's an American detective, knowing who Holly Willoughby was.
He saw a picture of her apparently next to a wheel, a Wheel of Fortune type thing, and thought she looks like a TV personality and did a bit of, being a detective, did a bit of research.
But he was investigating the group and found this plot within it.
And Gavin Plum had a sort of... Well, he had a checkered past, frankly, with similar sort of fantasies that he'd tried to carry out previously as well. That's what the jury have heard during this case. Just great that he's being brought to justice and facing trial. Obviously innocent till proven guilty, but
shocking that things like that website that got me then when you said there's a website for people to go to fantasise about abducting people.
Share this, these
sick people.
Yeah,
sick people.
I mean, talking about sick, Princess Anne is sick, Alex, and in hospital. We're finding out more as to what happened to her. It was an accident involving a horse.
Yes, I mean, bearing in mind Anne is 73 years old, so this is quite a serious thing to happen to anybody, but let alone a 73-year-old woman. Of course, she's under fantastic care, but this happened at a Gloucestershire estate. Of course, we don't know exactly what happened, as is with the royals. They do keep these things private to some extent.
Well, I don't think that's the only reason we don't know.
Well, yeah, potentially so, but what we do know, what I can tell you is this. Her medical team said her injuries were consistent with an impact from a horse's head or legs. Given the fact that she's had a concussion, as far as we know, it seems consistent to me with potentially a kick from a horse. But we don't know for sure.
She herself saying she doesn't remember the details.
Quite. And there was an air ambulance that flew in. It was there for 40 minutes, but not needed. So you can see there was a lot gone into this. And thankfully, she would have had a lot of people around her.
The thing about her is what an accomplished horsewoman she is overall, so these accidents can happen.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, and also, you know, she's cancelled all her engagements. She was due to fly to Canada on Thursday on royal business, and we're dealing with a slimmed-down monarchy at the moment.
I know.
Kate's out of action, Anne's out of action, you know, the King himself undergoing treatment for cancer. Surely it's time for a rethink on the slimmed-down monarchy.
Well, who do you add, Andrew?
Well, there's Andrew's daughters who are willing and able and young. And...
I mean, yeah, maybe. As you know, I'm not a massive royalist, but I've always had a bit of time for Anne. My mum used to work in the charity sector for a long time. In children's charities, and she always said, you know, and it's her I get these sort of non-royalist values from, but she always said Anne worked really, really hard, and instead of just turning up and cutting a ribbon, she really got under the skin of a charity and really worked hard at it.
This is what the royals do best, it's charity, and I think now more than ever, I agree with you, Isabel, we do need a bigger royal family. I hear Prince William is planning on bringing back the royal family in a much bigger way when he becomes king at some some point.
Yeah. OK, let's turn our attention to some political topics. Emma, this is on the front of the Times and is about conversion therapy to be banned by Labour. Annalise Dodd's leading on this.
What
this
is
something
conversion
the Conservatives
therapy?
have said that they will ban, but they just haven't got round to it.
What is it?
So that is the million-dollar question, Eamonn, because conversion therapy, in its traditional sense, was religious organisations usually trying to, the phrase is pray away the gay. Trying to get people not to be gay through what was essentially brainwashing techniques. And that is largely banned under current legislation, but there are loopholes and it could be tidied up. The problem with, the contentious issue around conversion therapy when it comes to gender identity is that there were issues raised within the Cass report, which looked at the whole gender identity service for children. And they said, what we're concerned about is people who are just doing holistic therapy, which is one of the recommendations of the Cass report, being accused of trying to convert somebody out of a gender identity rather than helping them with their whole mental health, of which one outcome might be that they desist from having gender dysphoria. So the devil will absolutely be in the detail on how this is designed, how it's implemented, how therapists can and do feel protected. But it's also worth saying that there are therapists and therapists, and one of the things that we could do best is to stop the proliferation of basically anyone kind of setting themselves up in a nice little office with a little pot plant next to them and a glass of water and a box of tissue saying, I'm a therapist now.
Yeah, it would be important that that people who are seeking help to understand themselves better aren't led down a poor path to somebody who is going to trick them into saying, actually, that's wrong, or being gay is wrong,
because
or
some of these people want this
wrong.
conversion themselves. Am I right in
sometimes,
thinking? If it's banned, obviously they then can't have it.
Some adults who are of a particular religious bent, particularly, or come from a very traditionally conservative, small C conservative background, may opt into trying to change through some form of therapy. But that, I think, is vanishingly rare. And equally, they are adults. A lot of this is about children and young people. If a human adult wants to do whatever they want to do with their body and their mind and their sexuality, that's entirely up to them. I think where the concern is, and where Cass's concern was around services for children and young people.
Alex, let's talk about this betting scandal. The Scotland Yard has become embroiled in all of this, according to the Telegraph this morning.
Yep, shocking stuff. So now the Met Police are being dragged into the election. They've been accused of leaking the names of Tories who have been supposedly betting in the general election. So far, we've had 4 potential Tory candidates that have been in, which is an absolute scandal in itself.
I think it's 2 candidates, 2 staff members.
Possibly so. Whatever it is, it's a lot of people, and it's a complete scandal in itself that this even happened in the first place. I think it goes to show the level of corruption that is seeping into our daily politics, unfortunately. But, if the Met Police are found guilty of leaking these names, then they will be accused of election interference, which is absolutely shocking. So they're now under investigation. What we do know about the Tories that have been already put in the spotlight is Craig Williams. He's one of the Prime Minister's closest prime ministerial aides, and Tony Lee, who's the campaign director for the Conservative Party. Now, what I think is hilarious about all this is that, having looked at the polls prior to the start of the election, I suspect they were saying, I'm going to be placing a bet on a massive Labour majority if they were going to win any money. So, it's shocking.
Betting on a Labour majority would be less of an issue. It would still be slightly dodgy because they could, I've been joking since the beginning of this campaign, since the rainy start, and Sunak being absolutely poured on with things can only get better running in the background, that Sunak's team were basically doing this on a dare. And that they were betting to see how badly they could do it. Now, that was a joke 4 weeks ago, and now look where we are. But more importantly, it is insider trading, essentially, to bet on something that you know is a fact.
Yeah.
And it's not a publicly available fact.
Yeah, it's absolutely scandalous. I mean, what more could go wrong for Rishi Sunak in this general election than to have his own members of parliament, candidates, placing bets when they know they shouldn't be?
Well, also, let's not forget his famous speech, talking about integrity,
honesty, professionalism. Yeah, absolutely.
And it has not been that way. James Cracknell was interesting, I thought, yesterday. I don't know if you saw him out and about in Colchester.
Yeah.
He's one of the candidates there. He said the Tories are a shower of ... He said if teammates in the Olympics got caught cheating, they'd be dead to me.
And that's the Tory candidate.
Party
I know. I think he thought that would come off really well, that video, but I think it just highlighted even more how devoid this election is of any, the Tory election is of any values.
Well, let's talk about an issue that I think could tear apart the Labour Party if they do get into power next week. And this is the issue of child poverty and the cap on child benefit. Now, we know how strongly a particular wing of the party feels about this. Probably everyone in the Labour Party.
I think everyone in the Labour Party.
Rachel Reeves has said she absolutely cannot deal with it imminently, possibly even as long as 2 years. It's been described as heinous and vile as a policy by Labour people. Now the General Secretary of the TUC is really flexing his muscles today. He's come out, and I think it's on the front of the... Which paper is it this morning? The Guardian,
I believe.
Saying nearly 1 million children will go and live and grow up in poverty under Labour. Now, that is piling the pressure on Keir Starmer, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's... I don't know how sustainable this position that Labour have got themselves into is, if I'm honest. Look, cards on the table, I think Labour's going to win the election next week. I know, shock, right?
Don't ask any Tories, they might bet on it.
Yeah, exactly. And they're going to probably have a comfortable majority, which means that they will be able to pass whatever legislation they want to pass. The Tories... As parties do when they go into opposition, the tendency is nearly always to turn inward and to start fighting amongst themselves, which then again gives the government less external scrutiny. But a very, very large parliamentary party actually means that it's much more likely to have internal pressure.
100%. Unruly backbenchers.
Unruly
backbenchers.
Have
been looking at the last 14 years of all of this infighting, and it might well happen to them. I have to take a pause. Don't go anywhere. Stay where you are. We are joined now by the Government Minister, Michael Tomlinson. He's Conservative candidate and Minister for Countering Illegal Migration. Delighted to have you on the programme. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. If you'd be so kind, I'd like to start with the breaking news overnight in relation to Julian Assange, who seems to have struck a deal with the US, a plea deal, and has already left the country. Your reaction to that?
Well, I've only just seen that news, and thank you very much for that kind introduction. Clearly, this has happened overnight. It's breaking news. We need to be given time to assess that and consider it, and I'm sure you'll be getting a full and detailed response in due course.
OK, well, let's hope then you've had enough time to consider this next question, which is the ongoing gambling scandal. And I refer back to that speech made by your boss, the Prime Minister, on the steps of Downing Street the day he got the job 18 months ago, when he talked about integrity, professionalism and accountability being at the heart of his administration. Doesn't really look like that's been the case when we have two candidates and two staff members alleged to have been placing bets on the date of the election. James Cracknell, another candidate yesterday, saying that the Tories are a shower of ... If teammates in the Olympics got caught for cheating, they'd be dead to me. Perfectly probably summing up the attitude of the public, wouldn't you say?
Well, the attitude, my attitude, is one of sheer frustration and anger. You've seen that in the Prime Minister's response and in his tone, and that is absolutely right. But equally, perhaps it's the lawyer in me. There is a process, there is a procedure. We've got the Independent Gambling Commission who are looking at it. We also, you heard from the Prime Minister yesterday on this very subject. We've also got an internal investigation as well. As far as I'm concerned, I want this matter dealt with swiftly. And those who have found to have broken the rules or fallen short of those standards that you talk about, they need to be dealt with severely.
But the problem is, Sir Keir Starmer has said he feels that the Prime Minister is just kicking the can into the long grass and just trying to move along the narrative by announcing this investigation. I mean, one of those accused has actually admitted a grave error of judgment. That in itself surely has to be enough for him to be able to be facing disciplinary action. I mean, what more does it take? An admission of guilt there for you as a lawyer?
Well, as a lawyer, there is a process, and that's why there is this internal investigation. Can I agree with the first part of your question? This needs to be dealt with as soon as possible. This needs to be dealt with swiftly. And I agree, if there is a finding that people have breached the rules, have broken the law, or have fallen short of those standards that the Prime Minister rightly expects of his candidates and of the people around them, then those people need to be dealt with severely. But you mentioned that I'm a lawyer. Yes, I am. And I believe in due process, and therefore due process needs to happen. But as a lawyer, justice needs to be dealt with swiftly. And that is my view. It needs to be dealt with swiftly as soon as possible.
Just don't feel they can trust the Tories with an internal investigation. We only have to look at Partygate. Even Michael Gove saying there is a feeling that there is one rule for you guys and another rule for the rest of us. The Lib Dems want the government's ethics advisor to get involved and see if ministers have placed bets. Why hasn't that happened already?
Well, there are two investigations. You say that there's an internal investigation and that's something that's not to be trusted. I don't actually agree with that. I think internal investigations can be robust, they can be thorough, and in this case, I hope it is swift. But there is also the Independent Gambling Commission as well. There is already that process in train. As I say, I am frustrated. I hope you can sense my frustration. I'm the illegal migration minister. We've got interesting news on the front pages about our Rwanda plan. We've got news about our migration figures, about how we're going to cut those. We've got news about our deterrent effect and our plan. My frustration is that this is the news, this is the story that I want to be talking about. And so I want those dealt with swiftly and severely, and I want to be able to talk about our plan and our deterrent effect on migration.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that, because these headlines that you refer to, the Telegraph says, migrants in Calais wait for Labour win. This is a claim that was made by the Prime Minister during a debate. What evidence have you got for that claim?
Well, it's there in the Telegraph article and the very good journalism. Charles Hymas was out there. He was talking to migrants in Northern Europe, in Northern France, and there is evidence that people are waiting. They are not coming to the United Kingdom because of the deterrent effect of our Rwanda scheme. For weeks, for months, people have been asking me, where is your evidence of the deterrent effect? I've pointed to Australia. I pointed to Albania. Last month, I was able to point to Ireland, where migrants from the United Kingdom moved into Ireland on the passing of our Rwanda bill. And today we've got further evidence, first-hand evidence from those who are waiting to cross, who are saying we are not crossing because of the deterrent effect of the Rwanda scheme. We have a plan. We have a deterrent effect. Labour doesn't have a plan, and it would throw the deterrents away, and the evidence of that is right there in front of us today.
How is that Rwanda plan going? Because weren't we supposed to have seen some planes take off by the end of June?
That's absolutely right, and the Prime Minister was clear that...
20th of June, sir.
Well, it is. Flights will take off after the general election. You've seen that. The date is booked. The planes are booked. The airfield is ready. We've had a recent report confirming that Rwanda is ready as well. So all things are in place. But in order for the planes to take off, in order for the full deterrent effects to kick in, you need to vote for the Conservative Party on the 4th of July. Labour have been crystal clear on one thing and one thing only, and that is that they will scrap the Rwanda scheme. They have no plan. They will scrap the deterrent effect. And we see the deterrent effect writ large on the front pages today.
Can we talk about the Institute for Fiscal Studies, an independent think tank, and Paul Johnson, the director there yesterday, levelling some pretty serious criticisms at both the Conservatives and the Labour Party, saying that there was a conspiracy of silence on tax and that the Labour and the Tories were essentially ignoring some of the biggest challenges in the economy, and that the pledges to improve public services are essentially unfunded. This is part of the problem, isn't it? That politicians aren't being honest with the British people, and that is contributing to this huge sense of dissatisfaction and frustration with politicians, and arguably one of the big reasons why you may well be facing a resounding result next week.
Well, I don't think that's quite right, because our manifesto is clear. There were two documents that were published on the day of the manifesto launch, and I was there at Silverstone. There were two documents that were there. Firstly, the manifesto itself, and secondly, the costings behind it. Each and every one of our plans is fully funded. We have a plan, a very clear plan, for lower taxes, for lower immigration, in stark contrast to the Labour Party that stands for higher taxes, and we all know where their instincts on immigration are and higher immigration.
I'm sorry, but Paul Johnson's got no reason to lie. You have every reason to bend the truth and twist it to make it sound different. Why would an independent economist who's criticising everybody equally, and he's also levelled criticisms at Reform and at the Green Party as well, why would he be making this up? The British public deserve for our government and our politicians to be honest with them.
And at the Labour Party as well. You mentioned two other parties. You mentioned the Labour Party as well.
For 14 years, and I'm talking to you.
Confirming that taxes would go up under Labour. And my response, quite simply, and it's a fair question, my response quite simply is that the manifesto is fully costed, is fully funded. There were two documents that were published, the manifesto itself and the workings behind it, if you like, because you're right, there are plenty of people out there who are sceptical of politicians, and that's why it was the right thing to do to publish that costings document to show that our plans for lower taxes are fully costed and are affordable. And that's the straightforward choice that we've got at the general election. Lower taxes, lower immigration under the Conservative, or higher taxes and higher immigration under Labour. And that's the choice for the British people.
Michael Tomlinson, thanks very much for your time. Conservative candidate and Minister for Countering Illegal Migration. We appreciate your time.
Quick word from you two.
So, it's not fully costed. It's fully costed if you assume all sorts of heroic things. For example, in those costings is a rise in fuel duty, because the fuel duty rise has been paused, but it's been paused for about 14 years. So if you assume that the Tories are going to suddenly change their mind and raise fuel duty, I can't imagine them doing that, then the costings work.
Alex, in 15 seconds.
Small boats record high today, 12,901 since January. Is the deterrent working? People will judge that for themselves.
Yeah. And you could also ask the question, why do we need to spend money in the first place? Let us know your views. Right now, we're going to get a weather update because it's going to be better and better and scorchio for the rest of the week. Good morning, Aidan McGivern.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny for many places in the south today, but cloudier, cooler in the north and with a few showers. We start the day with cloud cover across some western and northwestern parts of the UK. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland seeing a few spots of rain. By the afternoon, the weather responsible for that rain pushes into eastern Scotland, northern England, and could give a few showers, perhaps some longer spells of rain for northeastern parts of Scotland. Otherwise, widespread sunny skies for much of England and Wales, and rising temperatures, 30 or 31 Celsius possible in some of the hotter spots. Later Tuesday, some of the heavier rain across northeast Scotland begins to clear, but it could last until the evening, and there'll be always the chance of a shower or two further west across Scotland and in the south, particularly over the southern uplands. It's drying up and clearing up across Northern Ireland, but for northern England, one or two sharp showers possible over the North Pennines, for example. Wales, central and southern England, though, plenty of sunshine. Particularly through the evening, actually, it's likely to become increasingly sunny as the sun starts to go down, and then clear skies overnight as the cloud and rain in the northeast starts to move into the North Sea. Always a chance of the odd shower continuing in one or two spots overnight, however, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder as well. But it's a warm night for many of us, 17 Celsius in some spots by dawn, and so it could be uncomfortable for sleeping. Nevertheless, for most, it's a fine start to Wednesday. Plenty of early morning sunshine. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, much of England and Wales. One exception, northeast England, eastern Scotland could see some low cloud and some mistiness around the coast. And there's the chance further west of a heavy, thundery downpour later as temperatures rise, and we're looking at highs into the high 20s, low 30s.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
the latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the A1 in West Yorkshire, there are northbound delays heading up towards the roadworks at Went Bridge. There are delays of up to 20 minutes. Trains to and from Stansted Airport after overnight engineering works overran earlier. In London, Manchester Road on the Isle of Dogs is closed each way by Island Gardens DLR station after an accident. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues getting onto the M25 because of roadworks. Also in Kent, the A2070 is closed westbound off junction 10 of the M20 south of Ashford after a car caught fire yesterday morning. And there are a couple of problems in Devon. The A39 is blocked where a coach caught fire at Barbrook, and on the M5 there's a lane closed where someone's broken down on the northbound exit Slit Road at junction 27 for the A361 at Tiverton. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good morning. Julian Assange walks free from Belmarsh prison.
And the WikiLeaks founder agrees to an American plea deal. So he'll go to the States, he'll face one charge. He faces a judge tomorrow before returning to Australia. We hear this morning he is where?
Just landed in Bangkok.
There you go.
Princess Anne continues her recovery in hospital, but worrying reports this morning reveal she may have memory problems after being injured by a horse.
Officers under investigation as the Met Police are accused of leaking the identities of Conservatives caught up in the election betting scandal.
Rishi Sunak has blasted Sir Keir Starmer over migration, claiming illegal migrants are queuing up in Calais.
No EU U-turn from Labour as Sir Keir Starmer promises Brexit will be safe.
And heating up, we head outdoors and make the most of the summer heat wave. But just how long will it last?
Hot and sunny for many, but not for all today and tomorrow. How high will the temperatures climb? I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
And in the sport this morning, so what England will we see tonight? The free-flowing attacking one that we haven't seen for a while, or the boring sitting back one? Well, we'll see as they play Slovenia tonight at 8 o'clock. Italy scored a last-minute equaliser against Croatia last night, which pretty much puts them out of the Euros. And with 31 days to the Olympic Games, we'll find out where the flame is now.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I don't know what way we normally look, but today you're getting in touch. Thank you very much indeed. Michael says, why are Eamonn and Isabel dressed up to the nines this morning? And Val and a few other people saying, Isabel, loving the new hairdo. Really suits you.
Well, guys, we are out and about after the show, off to the Trick Awards. You might remember we're nominated to win Best News Programme. We won it last year, so I thought I'd do an updo.
Sorry.
Don't normally do. Oh, sorry, you're up for Best Presenter as well.
Yeah. Eamonn, I've got to ask you.
Yes, Paul.
Is there any truth that you've been betting on the fact that you're going to win? I just heard that there was the odd rumour. Is there any truth that you have been betting on how the Trick Awards is going to go?
I wouldn't have a clue.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
I would say we've got a good chance.
I
think we've got such a strong, loyal audience. Everybody knows that we're beating all the other breakfast programmes at the moment in our category, so, you know.
Well, I've had such a bad couple of years. Anything would be an improvement.
Be a bit more humble, maybe.
That would be good.
Fingers crossed. Anyway, we'll let you know this time tomorrow.
Thank
but
you.
That's why
if
the
you
updo.
did vote. Thank you very much indeed.
Absolutely.
So it's an early event. So we've got to be there by 11:30 or so. So Isabel's hair has to go up in advance.
Well, I actually had a bit of an outfit disaster because I'm wearing a suit.
Wait till you hear this one.
I hung my suit up in the hall, ready to go this morning.
Right, suit. Coat hanger
and a little cami to wear, like a little top that you wear inside your suit, and grabbed my suit, went to the car, and cami fell onto the floor. Now I've got the suit, but nothing to wear underneath.
She didn't know. She came to work with her suit, but she didn't know her cami had slipped off the coat hanger and fallen to the floor.
So Bev Turner has saved the day. I've sent her a message. She's bringing me in a top. All is not lost.
You might have looked good without the top.
We might have won a different award then.
Might have been.
Better that it falls off in the car than it falls off when you're wearing it. So that's the main thing. Could be much worse.
That does happen, doesn't it?
It could be much worse.
Finnegan can live and tell us that story.
Let's get into politics now, to the campaign and the Metropolitan Police facing scrutiny as they are alleged to have leaked the identities of some Conservatives involved in this election betting scandal.
And away from that scandal, voters got to see more of Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer last night during their election showdown, hosted by The Sun, where they were quizzed over everything from immigration, Brexit and even trans rights.
Joining us now to chat through all of that, former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng. Very nice to see you.
Very good to see you, Eamonn.
Thank you.
And Isabel.
Thank you. So what do you think? What position? Look, you know, nobody seems to be betting against Keir Starmer in any way. This must be tough for Rishi Sunak then, day after day, to face, you know, this routine, this ritual, knowing he ain't going to win this.
I think it's very difficult for him, for any Prime Minister. The only thing I can remember which is similar was 1997, when you kind of knew that Labour would get in. And I think John Major and the Cabinet, they looked pretty tired. And they were going out on campaign, and everyone knew what the result would be. It feels a bit like that this year. There could still be surprises, we don't know. But at the moment, you know, when you've got Cabinet Ministers warning about Labour supermajorities, I think Jeremy Hunt and Grant Shapps have mentioned that. You can see where the thing's going.
Do you feel sad about the way things are going for the Conservatives? And are you sad about what looks like is going to happen next week? And do you feel in any way culpable? Because last night we heard Rishi Sunak being grilled by Harry Cole from The Sun, and he looked increasingly frustrated again. Judge me on my record. I've been in this role for 18 months. Of course, he took over, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
The disastrous mini-budget that you presided over. Do you feel responsible?
So I feel partially responsible. But I don't feel responsible for leaving D-Day early. I don't feel responsible for the Reform Party, which was on 4% in October 2022, being on nearly 20% now. I don't feel responsible for the election betting scandal. Nor do I feel responsible for the fact that this election has happened way before anyone was expecting it. Even Philip Hammond, who was a great supporter of Rishi Sunak, was in the media, I read, saying, why are we doing an election
now? Give us an insight. You must know more than most on this. Why would he have gone so early? Was he forced to go early by members of the party?
No.
Had enough.
I think it was a personal decision. My understanding was that he had he'd sought to get the dissolution. So he went to the King to get the dissolution of the Parliament before engaging with the Cabinet. That's what I've read. Now, and I'm not privy to any... That's quite unusual. Because I remember I was in Cabinet in 2019 and Boris Johnson discussed the December election with the Cabinet. And it was only after that discussion. And actually, in the meeting, I was against the December election. I thought it was a very unusual and difficult time to have an election. But he took all the advice, and then he went for the election, and it was a success. I think this time, clearly very few people knew, and that's why it was 5-1. That's why they could make money on the betting, because nobody thought that it was such a long shot. And obviously these are allegations. We have to see what happened. But it was very unexpected. And the problem with unexpected elections is that they can surprise your party more than the others. And clearly we had 190 candidates that hadn't been selected. I'd said that I would stand down in February. We still didn't have a candidate in my seat when the election was called on the 22nd of May. So there was a sense in which the party was slightly unprepared. And I think as a consequence of all of that, you've had some of the difficulties on the campaign that we've seen.
Can I ask you, we've had this report from the independent think tank, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, yesterday, fairly damning of pretty much all the parties, saying that the Conservatives and the Labour Party are in some sort of conspiracy of silence on tax. And he also levelled criticism at Reform and the Greens, saying that they are poisoning the entire public debate by making promises that are wholly unattainable. Now, a minute ago, you said to me you feel partly responsible for what's going on for the Conservatives. And you've come out and you've said, you know, some of what you did was probably a mistake. And I know there's been a sort of journey...
No. So let me be very clear. I think the pace of it was a mistake.
Yeah.
I think the goal was the right thing. But I think it was way too fast.
Right.
And we should have prepared the ground more, and we should have probably delayed the statement. And one thing that I've been consistent about is that you've got to have spending restraint with the tax cuts.
So what's your reaction to what was being said by... Johnson yesterday, I forget his first name, Paul Johnson from the IFS, because he's totally independent. He's not partisan in any way. He's got nothing to gain from this. He's trying to sort of stick up for the public and say, and as someone who's gone through a process of delivering, a budget that went down pretty badly, what would you say to all these people who, some people are saying that they're sort of cooking the books or taking us for fools?
I mean, you point out the budget. I mean, what happened to the budget is neither here nor there in terms of my comment about.
Well, just that you haven't got. No, well, it is.
I mean, I don't quite.
You don't see the link.
No.
Well, as somebody who pledged to make huge tax cuts, very similar. I mean, they're talking about reform being like Trussonomics on steroids. And you're the architect of Trussonomics, and that's widely seen by a lot of people as being problematic.
So what's the question?
My question is,
I mean, you've still pointed out that my budget didn't work out.
Yes.
What is the question?
My question is, do you accept the findings of Paul Johnson that the parties need to be more responsible in what they're offering in their manifestos?
So it's very difficult for the party because the one thing that is predicated is growth. We don't know what the growth levels will be. Now, if it's the case that we don't get much growth next year, they're going to have to put up taxes to pay for their spending.
They're not being honest about that.
To pay for their spending.
Conspiracy
I mean, that's
of
logic.
silence.
But if they do get growth, which is what they want to get, then obviously they'll have to put up taxes less. So I think it's a bit unfair of the IFS because we don't know, nobody can predict what's exactly going to happen to the economy.
What would happen if we didn't spend anything? I mean, we're getting these accusations, Conservatives and Labour both refusing to rule out tax rises, and these could be 10 tax rises that we're talking about. But what would happen to the country, to the economy, if we said, look, we're not going to spend any more money. We're going to tick along the way we are, but we haven't got the money to spend.
So it's very difficult because otherwise, when you get wage increases, a lot of the public sector workers, and often if there's inflation is high, they will want to see increased wages, and if that doesn't happen, many people go on strike. I mean, I even read last week that junior doctors were going to go on strike if they didn't get 35% increase. So those are the pressures you have to deal with. And if you're trying to run the public finances, you've got to find money to pay for public services. And if you don't have any growth, that was what the problem that Liz Truss and I were trying to solve. If you don't have any growth, you're always going to keep up taxes. And so the mini budget that you alluded to was all about trying to get growth into the economy. Now, for various reasons, it didn't work. But the fundamental problem is still the same. Either Labour or Conservative, who, if they get in, are going to have to increase growth because the alternative is higher taxes.
But that's what Labour are saying. That's what they want. That's how they're going to fund.
Everyone wants growth.
But let's see what happens.
Magical unicorn.
The pudding will be in the eating.
Yeah.
If they don't get the growth, and I'm saying if they don't get it, they're going to have to put up taxes.
And Kwasi, what do you think is going to happen to the Conservatives if they lose next week? And I'm going to ask you, there's lots to talk about betting. If you were a betting man, who do you think will take over?
Well, look, I think...
know Rishi Sunak's going to be on the first plane out of here. You know.
Well, he said he won't be, but let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Kemi Badenoch?
I think she's a good candidate. I think Robert Jenrick is a good candidate. And also a lot of it will be driven by who comes back. So if Penny Mordaunt gets back, she's a very strong candidate. If Grant Shapps gets back...
Who's your favourite? Those are two big ifs.
He's a good candidate. I like... I mean, personally, I get on very well with all the candidates, but I know Kemi Badenoch quite well. I think she's got lots of leadership qualities, and I think Robert Jenrick is saying lots of interesting things. So those two are probably interesting candidates for me. But, you know, I could be happy with Penny. I think there were actually this time quite a lot of good candidates.
And what's going to feel like for you being outside the loop from here on in, you know, watching...
It's difficult.
Yeah?
Difficult. I mean, I feel 14 years in this day and age is a long time. You know, I look at the correspondence we get, 250, hundreds of emails more a day. And when I started, it was much less. And, you know, many years ago, you'd be lucky as an MP if you got 3 or 4 letters a day. So the volume, the intensity of it, you need huge amounts of energy. And it's a huge privilege. But I think 14 years was a long enough time. And I was very confident that I would win the seat when I announced it in February, that I was leaving. Things are changing now. You know, I mean, you talked about the blame game. The Tory position now is worse relative to Labour than it was at the beginning of the campaign. It's worse in terms of the seats. And it's a very challenging outlook out there.
You done with politics?
No, not at all. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I were done with it. I like talking about it. I like thinking about it. I think it's very important.
Well, it's good to hear you. It's good to hear you.
But it just feels, you know, the right time to leave the House of Commons.
Kwasi Kwarteng, we've got to leave it there. Very interesting to hear all that you have to say. Kwasi, former Chancellor, of course, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, the WikiLeaks founder, Julian Assange, has just landed in Bangkok following his release from prison yesterday.
Now, a plea deal was reached with the United States. He's expected to appear at a US district court for an American territory in the Pacific Ocean tomorrow, and then it's believed he'll return to Australia.
Well, let's speak to the security specialist, Will Geddes, who joins us this morning. Good to see you, Will. This has all happened very dramatically. You know, all these years behind bars, the most recent, I think, 5 or so of those in Belmarsh, and suddenly a plea deal has been struck with the US. What has he agreed to?
Well, he's basically had a lot of these particular charges against him, which is about 35 charges, particularly under Espionage Act in America, for fundamentally the release of these 10 million odd documents back in about 2010. Which obviously disclosed a lot of the CIA and military operations, which should have been kept confidential or top secret, if you like, in both Iraq and Afghanistan. And this has been pushed down to just one simple charge of espionage, which I believe President Biden has quite a lot of influence over in terms of reducing it to this single charge. And it's going to be heard in a court just off the Philippines before he's returned to Australia. But President Biden has also made a comment to the Australian authorities that he may very well exonerate Assange from any charges whatsoever.
Goodness me. And it's been so complicated, his sort of timeline, if we look back over what happened over the last 13 years. I mean, he was so many appeals, obviously incarcerated inside the Ecuadorian embassy for a period. We all remember all those visits from high-profile celebrities, including Pamela Anderson going in there. He's been married whilst he's been behind bars. He's fathered 2 children. This is going to be, apart from anything else, on a personal level, a huge transition for him to make, to reintegrate back into society after experiencing what most people probably have never experienced.
Yes, I mean, certainly he's been through the mill, if we can call it that, in terms of obviously his defence against the various different charges made against him. Now, whether you agree or disagree, certainly in my world, I feel that there is a great level of responsibility that should be attributed to him in terms of the release of these confidential informations, which have obviously put, to a certain extent, operators on the ground, and not that the military or the intelligence agencies could, actually admit to it or confirm, because ultimately those operations are clandestine, and for them to confirm where those compromises may have taken place would compromise, or even further, some of their operations on the ground. So, he has been through the mill. The Ecuadorian embassy, as you mentioned, where he took safe harbour. He's got a very, very large swell of support from various individuals who are the believers in freedom of speech. And I, myself, I'm also a believer in the freedom of speech. However, it's information and how it was acquired, which really is the questionable aspect in terms of the breach of the Espionage Act in the United States. But he is going into a safe harbour in Australia. Australia will take him back. He is probably in the safest part of the world possible in terms of those that would want retaliation for those compromises that he's already made, and also for this hearing to be held off the Philippines rather than in the United States or in the UK, reduces the chances, obviously, for the media to cover it, and it allows him to control the optics to a certain extent.
Who's your latest client? I was seeing in the papers this week, you were making the headlines, you were being attached to somebody famous. Can you tell us who that was?
You know me, Eamonn, well enough to know that I neither confirm nor deny who I look after. And if you did come across that article,
Google up
I couldn't obviously.
I've been trying to look for it there. I can't see it, but well, he's a man, as you can see, literally
in demand.
No, in the shadows. I'm trying to say.
Yeah, today I am.
Can't see your face this morning. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
Sorry, I'm not at your smart new desk today.
Well, you have to come and check it out. It's very smart.
I'd be delighted if you invite me.
We'll see you soon. Thanks,
you, Will. Thank you very much indeed.
Take care.
Let's get a roundup of some other stories coming into the newsroom. The Institute for Fiscal Studies has released their analysis of the current election manifestos, revealing whoever forms the next government has big decisions to make over taxes and the size of the state. The think tank has accused both Labour and the Conservatives of maintaining a conspiracy of silence on spending plans.
The search for the missing British teenager Jay Slater is continuing on the Spanish island of Tenerife. The 19-year-old disappeared whilst on holiday last Monday. Yesterday, police were searching a village near the last location his phone was traced to, but there's still no sign of him.
A court in London has heard how a shopping centre security officer hatched a graphic plan to attack and kidnap the TV presenter Holly Willoughby. Gavin Plum, who's 37, is accused of discussing his plan online, unaware that he was engaging with an undercover police officer. The trial is expected to continue for 2 weeks.
Now, good news is the sunshine is set to last for the week. Look at that beautiful sun between us there. It's almost as if we revamped our set just to coincide with the heat wave.
As if. Let's find out where the heat wave's going to be today. Aidan McGivern.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny for many places in the south today, but cloudier, cooler in the north and with a few showers. We start the day with cloud cover across some western and northwestern parts of the UK. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland seeing a few spots of rain. By the afternoon, the weather front responsible for that rain pushes into eastern Scotland, northern England, and could give a few showers, perhaps some longer spells of rain for northeastern parts of Scotland. Otherwise, widespread sunny skies for much of England and Wales, and rising temperatures 30 or 31 Celsius possible in some of the hotter spots. Later Tuesday, some of the heavier rain across northeast Scotland begins to clear, but it could last until the evening, and there'll be always the chance of a shower or two further west across Scotland and in the south, particularly over the southern uplands. It's drying up and clearing up across Northern Ireland, but for northern England, one or two sharp showers possible over the North Pennines, for example. Wales, central and southern England, though, plenty of sunshine. Particularly through the evening, actually, it's likely to become increasingly sunny as the sun starts to go down, and then clear skies overnight as the cloud and rain in the northeast starts to move into the North Sea. Always a chance of the odd shower continuing in one or two spots overnight, however, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder as well. But it's a warm night for many of us, 17 Celsius in some spots by dawn, and so it could be uncomfortable for sleeping. Nevertheless, for most, it's a fine start to Wednesday. Plenty of early morning sunshine. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, much of England and Wales. One exception, North East England, Eastern Scotland could see some low cloud and some mistiness around the coast. And there's the chance further west of a heavy, thundery downpour later as temperatures rise, and we're looking at highs into the high 20s, low 30s.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Just a word about our summer giveaway, 15,000 quid attached to that in cash, and then you get extra things on top of that. The lines will close at 5 o'clock on Friday, so to make sure you don't miss out, here's how you enter.
It's the final week to see how you can win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, Princess Anne is set to miss the Japanese state visit today. She's recovering from a concussion in hospital. Thought to have been hit, they think, kicked by a horse. Sounds awful. We'll have all the details for you.
They said they were injuries in common with a horse's head or a horse's foot. I think there's a bit of a difference, isn't there? But anyway, one would have hurt more than the other. Back talking about that right after this.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides
as you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel. Britain's election channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain. only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
To get the latest now on Princess Anne, we hear she's suffering a temporary memory loss. She is in hospital. Angela Levin, the royal biographer, is with us now, and this stops her from official events as well. Japanese state visit today.
Yes, this evening she can't go to that, and she can't go to Canada, which she was going to do for the end of the week, and to do that for the King. And she had 9 other engagements that she was going to do this week, all of which they insist on saying they've been put off, not that they're cancelling them. I think the worry is, I've looked up various things, and actually, you know, if you have been bashed on the head, she can't remember anything about it. And I think you have to be very careful when you're a certain age, because you might think you're feeling better.
Yeah.
And you might go, you know, because she's the sort of woman to say, I'm not staying in here any longer than I have to. She's formidable, but also deeply helpful and willing. And so it's a sort of combination that I hope they keep her in hospital until she seems really so much better. But when you think that somebody can't remember anything about it, it is very serious, I think.
We've had lots of reaction from people this morning, people sending in their well wishes. Nigel saying, I wish her all the very best. But Betty points out, let us not forget that 50 years ago, Princess Anne had a gun pointed at her in a real kidnap attempt. When asked to get out of the car, reportedly, she said, not likely, and several people were shot. The kidnapper remains in Broadmoor, but just goes to show...
She said a wee bit more than not likely.
Well, they did a ... yeah. But she's a tough cookie, I think, is what Betty is trying to point out.
Yes.
And, you know, she's the sort of epitome of the stiff upper lip, isn't she?
Yes, absolutely. And she did fall off a horse before 2020, and she's done that very well. And actually, if you saw her at the in the rain last week, it was unbelievable that she could... Yes, trooping the colour. It was unbelievable that she would do that in the pouring rain with her brother. She looked so strong and in control of it.
But she's an accomplished horse person, really. I mean, you know, Olympic medalist and sports personality of the year as a result of her equestrian events.
It's hard to understand quite where she would be, though. Nobody knows if she was on yet, whether she was on her own or whether she was with her husband. But he did go with her in an ambulance, and I think that you know, they have to look after her very carefully. But she won't want to stay there a minute longer. And she's been so positive towards her brother, King Charles. I mean, she came in and works incredibly hard. I went through to see on the royal list of who's doing what. You know, it's her, it's her, it's her, it's her, it's her.
But what's it going to mean now she's out of action? You know, this slimmed-down monarchy surely needs to be reviewed.
It's shrunk.
We've got no Kate, we've got no Anne. The King himself still undergoing chemotherapy or cancer treatment, as far as we're aware. So, you know, does he need to have a rethink?
Well, I think that you just don't do all the engagements that you have, and I think that's very difficult.
Isn't it?
It is a shame, but the Queen, actually, she had 600 engagements that she had, and she was chair of and all that sort of stuff. So we don't actually need to have so many, but we do need to have enough. And the change between what she was doing and after her passing and going all down to King Charles does make a difference. You're very well aware of it, and I think the, you know, charities that need the royals to come along and boost people's interest in them, it is very, very difficult for them.
What is the relationship between Anne and Charles, the King, like?
now it's very, very close. I mean, she was there for him all the time. She happened to be with her mother, the Queen who passed away, and she's done everything she possibly can for King Charles since. She was very strong, and the Duke of Edinburgh adored her because she was so pragmatic.
She's very like the Duke of Edinburgh, isn't she? Yeah.
He liked it because she was
wrong, really. I mean,
no, but she goes off and she does her job, and she doesn't mind about the press. She's not interested in them, and often we don't know what she's doing half the time, but she's doing wonderful jobs. She's doing. She's
like her dad. What was the year she said she told the press or the photographers to naff off?
Yes.
Yes.
She doesn't want
She's
us
been done
around.
for speeding a couple of times, hasn't she, back in the day?
Yes. But she's a very strong woman with a very warm heart. And her daughter, Zara, always says about her, because she doesn't like children, really. She always says she doesn't like children. Zara said that if I can be anything like my mother,
yes,
as a mother, I would be absolutely delighted. You couldn't find a better mother. It is really nice.
That is amazing, because Zara is one of the nicest people, royal or not, that you could possibly meet.
She's very warm and natural, and she does what she does with great grace, and she's not sort of jealous about a title. She's quite happy not to have a title.
I wish she hadn't given it up. I wish she was actually a working royal, because she's such an asset, and she's at so many of these events, and you saw her really warmly embracing... what was the name of the lady who recently lost her husband, who was at Ascot last week?
Yes, it's Lady Gabriella. Yes.
You know, she's a very integral part of the royal family and a big support to all of them.
Yes, and she doesn't mind showing how much she likes her. And she's been very, very kind to Lady Gabriella. I mean, it was marvellous of the royal family that they took her to Ascot. They invited her, not actually on the balcony, but just there. And she was smiling and she looked very relaxed. And on Saturday there was a memorial service for her husband, who died under very difficult circumstances. And, you know, the hugs are very much wanted. And I think that they showed now the royal family is much more able to show emotion than they did when the Queen was here.
The Japanese state visit and the dinner tonight, would there be a substitute? Would the Japanese turn up and expect to be rubbing shoulders with, you know, the top royals? Would Princess Anne be substituted in any way?
I don't know. I don't think so. But I think what's interesting about the Japanese Emperor and Empress is that they've been desperately keen to come here since 2020. They were about to come, but then COVID came, so they couldn't come. They came to the Queen's memorial service, and they adored the Queen because when she was younger and they were younger, she made them feel that they were part of the family. But today they're only going to see the King for today. They're here till the end of the week, and they're going to have lunch together with him and the Queen, and then they're having this grand buffet. And they will be delighted to be there. But what's very interesting is that they also going to Oxford University, because that's where they both studied and they got their degree.
Really?
And so they've got a real love of English people and England, and they're going to go to Windsor to see where the Queen died, and they care so much about this country and English people that it's really good that they could come. I wonder why they didn't cancel it, because they're only here seeing the King for one day, but they're going to do their other things. They're going to do all sorts of sightseeing and enjoy themselves.
And they're having a buffet, not a lunch. They'll walk with a plate and they'll go up to a counter.
It's not a state banquet tonight.
A state banquet tonight.
No,
it's
but
a lunch.
today, I mean, you don't expect an emperor and empress to take a plate and queue and say, I'll have a sausage roll, I'll have some coleslaw there.
I don't think that they'll do that, no.
So their idea of a buffet and ours would be two different things?
Very different things, yes.
Lovely. Angela, lovely to get the insight, lovely to get your analysis. Thank you, as always, for that. Angela Levin there, thank you.
Right, stay with us. Paul Coyte's going to be here with all the sports news ahead of England's big match tonight.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the A1 in West Yorkshire, there are northbound queues towards the roadworks at Went Bridge. In London, Manchester Road on the Isle of Dogs is closed each way after an accident by Island Gardens DLR station. On the M25 in Essex, there are anti-clockwise queues from junction 27 for the M11 to a mile after 25 for the A10 because of roadworks. And in the Kent stretch, there are clockwise delays from junction 4 at Orpington to 5, with queues 2 on the M26 joining at junction 5 because of roadworks there. Also in Kent, the A2070 is closed westbound off junction 10 of the M20 south of Ashford for emergency repairs to damage caused after a car caught fire yesterday. There are a couple of problems in Devon. The A39 is blocked where a coach caught fire at Barbrook, and on the M5 there's a lane closed where someone's broken down on the northbound exit at junction 27 at Tiverton. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes and Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but it's actually about you.
And we won't ever forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
Now more than ever, it's important to hear
all sides as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's election channel.
The Euros, England, big game for them tonight, but maybe not as big as it could be because it looks like they've qualified.
Well, they have qualified, so this is down to the fact that Spain beat Albania yesterday, although they had made 10 changes. Because they're fine. They look very good. So Spain beat Albania, which means it's because of all third places and different points across all the other groups. Cut a long story short, England have now qualified for the knockout stage. So it doesn't matter what happens against Slovenia, although it does matter because if we finish top, then we would play someone a little further down, which would make more sense, it'd be better. And then we would play 5 p.m. on Sunday, and it would be a third place side from D, E or F. If we're runners-up, it would be Germany. Don't want Germany on Saturday. Okay. Third place, probably Portugal. But anyway, all depends.
One thing at a time.
Slovenia tonight. You can go to take each step as it comes.
Bryson DeChambeau, he won the US Open a couple of weeks ago. And, right, so he's playing in this Live Tour. OK, got some action here.
Well, the thing is, golfers need silence. We've spoken about this with different sports where you need silence. You need silence playing snooker. Playing tennis, they like that. Other things, you like to have a bit of noise. Golf, you don't want anything to put you off. Here we are. Listen carefully. Here we go. Hey, there you go. Listen. Who brings a dog to golf?
A golf tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I can't imagine, but...
my dog...
It's an accepted practice, is it?
My dog, Dudley, loves a golf ball, and if he was there, would chase after... It would be a nightmare.
It would be.
Yeah. So, anyway, so he stopped, played the shot again, everything fine. I don't know what happened to the dog.
So we're talking about heat waves over this country and the Arctic Open. Where's the Arctic Open played?
Right, more golf then. The Arctic Open, which is one of my favourite golf opens, which is held in Iceland. So have a look at this.
Is it held on ice and snow?
In the north of Iceland, so it's in the Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
There we are. Anything strange about that at all that you may see?
Yeah, there's no snow.
No, there's no snow, fair enough. But what time of day do you think?
Never-ending daylight, is it?
There you go. Midnight tee-off.
No way.
The land of the midnight sun.
I couldn't live like that.
That'd make you ill.
I don't like that.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah, but they have... That's the thing. Those people live... Because during the winter, 24 hours darkness...
Couldn't live with that.
Awful. During the summer... 24 hours sunshine. So they play the Arctic Open till right through.
I saw a film once, I can't remember what it was called, but Al Pacino was a detective in it, and it was bright all the time. And, of course, it sent everybody crazy.
Yeah, it's a sort of torture, isn't it?
Because it's sort of torture, you just sort of can't go to sleep.
Really? What film was that? I don't remember.
Well, I told you didn't know the name. Why asking me the title for?
OK, that's me asking you again. I'm just having to think about it.
Put Al
I can only think of Serpico at the moment.
Put Al Pacino in and Arctic Circle. And
it was in the Arctic Circle?
He couldn't sleep.
Pacino? Really?
He couldn't sleep. He was... Anyway.
He didn't play a Norwegian, did he?
Where's the Olympic torch?
Oh, now the Olympic torch, we're back to the snow again. The Olympic torch has hit the Alps now. So it's gone over to the territories around the Pacific, and now let's have a look, and we can see the Olympic torch then in the Alps. There we are. Look, the French Alps, Chamonix Mont Blanc.
Oh, lovely.
100 years ago, the Winter Olympics were held there, and there we are. I mean, it's been... I don't think there's anywhere in France that this flame hasn't been. I don't know why Jean-Claude Killy was not there, who won the downhill in the 1968 Olympics in Grenoble. It's just one of those stupid things I always remember, but maybe he was there. But that's where it is at the moment, so it's in the French Alps, heading back towards Paris, 31 days until the Olympics begin.
Month to go. Thanks, Paul. Thank you very much indeed.
Steve McManaman.
Steve McManaman. We're back with Steve McManaman. And you and Steve McManaman are practically dating or something, aren't you? What? No? He's a friend of yours on Instagram. All right, if you don't want to talk about it, that's OK. We'll be back with the papers and more revelations right after this.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In World War I, 309 men from Britain and the Commonwealth never came home because they'd been shot at dawn. The majority were killed for desertion, cowardice and sleeping at post. Appearing at their court-martials and told they'd brought shame on their country, these men had no opportunity to defend themselves and were executed by a firing squad. The National Memorial Arboretum launched a fundraising campaign to restore the memorial, which has stood for more than 20 years.
Thank you to your viewers for their support for the fundraising campaign, and thanks to the generosity of so many people, we've been able to replace all 309 of the posts that represent those young men that were shot in the First World War. Restoration of this really precious memorial.
The centrepiece of the memorial is the young soldier, blindfolded and facing his execution. In September 1916, Private Harry Farr was ordered to the front. Already suffering from shell shock, he was overwhelmed and refused his orders. He was court-martialed, and in a trial lasting only 20 minutes, he was sentenced to death. On the day of his execution, he faced the firing squad without a blindfold. Janet Booth is Private Farr's granddaughter and was part of the public campaign to have those who were shot at dawn officially pardoned.
When I asked my gran, do you know where I could find Harry's grave? And she looked at my mother, and there was this sort of look between them, and then she said,
Well, he hasn't got a grave because they didn't warrant, he deserved one because he was shot as a coward and had let his country down. We can come here as a family and pay our respects to him, and also for all the other families, it's somewhere to come and remember their loved one.
The People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We head to the high seas now, where we are joined during this electoral campaign. There he is, ahoy, we say to the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage. Nigel.
Good morning.
What takes you to the high seas then, and where are you?
We are literally mid-channel now between Dover and Calais, and behind me you can see a white dinghy. There are 45 people on board. Behind it you can see an escort vessel, because that's what the French do. Despite the 500 million quid we've given them, they literally, once these boats are afloat, escort them to our 12-mile line where they hand them over to Border Force. That of itself, I think, is outrageous. But the significance of this boat is that this number on this vessel take it beyond 50,000 that have come since Rishi Sunak has been Prime Minister. During Boris Johnson's time, 68,000 came, but he was there for double the period. So don't delude yourselves. This problem is getting worse. So we're witnessing a really very, very big, significant number today. And of course, Sunak talks about Rwanda and much else. But I'm afraid I see no sign under either Labour or the Conservative parties of this problem ending. I don't think they've got the guts to do what it takes.
So, at the very least, reform in terms of what it takes would get the French to say, if you spot a boat, you bring it back to your shores, you don't bring it over to our shores.
Well, absolutely, because these boats are illegally taking off from France. They're vulnerable boats. And yes, the French Navy should be taking them straight back. Quite how we've managed to give them £500 million and to allow this practice to continue is completely and utterly beyond me.
I was just wanting to talk to you a little bit about the claims that the Prime Minister was making during the debates last night. He was saying that migrants in Calais were waiting for a Labour administration because of the deterrent of Rwanda. I mean, you've just... what's the phrase I'm looking for? Truth busted that or fact-checked that for us this morning. That's clearly not the case.
I mean, the arguments that Rishi Sunak and James Cleverly are putting up, I mean, they honestly, they don't bear credibility in any way at all. Were this lot behind me waiting for a Labour government? Were they hell? It's over 128,000 people have come, 90% of them young men, many coming from war zones, from areas plagued by terrorism, gang crime, many coming with attitudes towards women that we would find completely unacceptable. I mean, how much worse could it be under Labour than it's been under him? And my hunch is that he had to call the election early because he'd promised planes would go to Rwanda in July. He told us people were in detention already, waiting to go. Do you know every single one of those people has been released on bail and at least half have absconded already? There were no boats going to Rwanda. We will not solve this problem until we leave the European Court of Human Rights.
Nigel, I wanted to ask you, and this is related, so bear with me, but you'll be aware that the IFS yesterday, on your tax plan, said that you were poisoning the entire political debate because what you were proposing was wholly unattainable. And I want to ask if you think it's fair that you could also say that about your arguments when it comes to these illegal crossings. A lot of people voted for Brexit on what you were promising, which was that this problem would be resolved. It's got worse. Yeah. I know you'll tell me that the ECHR now is the key to this problem, but we would replace the ECHR presumably with our own enshrined human rights laws, because we are a civilised country, and lawyers would still find problems with detaining people who are legally or legitimately trying to flee war and other situations. So my question to you is what you're promising people truly attainable?
It's all attainable. Brexit Britain can do what the hell it likes. That was the point of leaving. You need a government that's prepared to carry it out. And sadly, we lack the will to do so. And it isn't just the £8 million a day for the hotels. I genuinely believe this should be declared a national security emergency. We have no idea who these young men are, no idea what they've been through, no idea what their intentions are. And that is just how serious this situation is. I think actually, logically, as a result of Brexit, we should leave the ECHR anyway. It's becoming an increasingly activist court. It's making it very difficult to deport those that come to our country illegally. It even intervened recently in Switzerland and told the Swiss government it had to obey net zero rules. We should have no part of it whatsoever. Let's get that sovereignty back, and once it's back, let's exercise it properly, because that's what the voters wanted more than once.
And directly on his comments on your, I know you didn't want to call it a manifesto, I think it was a social contract, but when it came to your pledges on politics, on tax and finance, he said that your rhetoric, and to be fair, he levelled the same criticism to the Greens as well, was creating a tax lock arms race, which was hugely damaging to public discourse. Do you accept any of that?
Absolutely none of it. What I do accept is that on economics and on budgets, what we put forward was far more ambitious than the Labour and Conservative governments, who, frankly, on these things, you literally cannot tell them apart. What we are saying is we have to get the level at which people pay tax up to £20,000 a year, and only by doing that do you get people off benefits and back to work and make work pay. And we can save it, we can get the money for it by scrapping the ludicrous drive, the crazy drive to decarbonising the grid by 2030 or 2035. You see, again, even on that, Labour and Conservative, virtually identical. That's going to cost between £2 and £3 trillion. So we can see exactly how we can do that, invest in our own people, get them off benefits, and stop the need for so much cheap migrant labour.
Nigel Farage, we've got to leave it there. Thank you for your time this morning. May the seas stay calm for you. Nigel is the leader of Reform UK. And just to Emma and Alex, you've got about 20 seconds each here. What do you think about what he's had to say?
I agree. I mean, the situation with the boats coming over, it hasn't abated, no matter what the Rwanda policy has been. And it doesn't seem that Labour has a plan.
I agree that we have to stop people putting their lives in danger in the Channel. I don't believe that the Reform Party's fantasy politics, and you can play a pirate all you want, but you ain't one.
OK, Emma, Alex, thank you very much indeed. Aidan McGivern, here's the weather.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny for many places in the south today, but cloudier, cooler in the north and with a few showers. We start the day with cloud cover across some western and northwestern parts of the UK. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland seeing a few spots of rain. By the afternoon, the weather responsible for that rain pushes into eastern Scotland, northern England, and could give a few showers, perhaps some longer spells of rain for northeastern parts of Scotland. Otherwise, widespread sunny skies for much of England and Wales, and rising temperatures 30 or 31 Celsius possible in some of the hotter spots. Later Tuesday, some of the heavier rain across northeast Scotland begins to clear, but it could last until the evening, and there'll be always the chance of a shower or two further west across Scotland and in the south, particularly over the southern uplands. It's drying up and clearing up across Northern Ireland, but for northern England, one or two sharp showers possible over the North Pennines, for example. Wales, central and southern England, though, plenty of sunshine. particularly through the evening, actually. It's likely to become increasingly sunny as the sun starts to go down, and then clear skies overnight as the cloud and rain in the northeast starts to move into the North Sea. Always a chance of the odd shower continuing in one or two spots overnight, however, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder as well. But it's a warm night for many of us, 17 Celsius in some spots by dawn, and so it could be uncomfortable for sleeping. Nevertheless, for most, it's a fine start to Wednesday. Plenty of early morning sunshine. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, much of England and Wales. One exception, northeast England, eastern Scotland could see some low cloud and some mistiness around the coast. And there's the chance further west of a heavy, thundery downpour later as temperatures rise, and we're looking at highs into the high 20s, low 30s.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
On the M1 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed northbound where someone's broken down between junctions 40 and 41 near Wakefield. On the M62 in East Yorkshire, there's a lane closed eastbound where there's a breakdown between junctions 36 and 37 from Goole to Howden. In Oxfordshire, the A420 is partly blocked eastbound at Botley to the west of Oxford, causing queues. In London, Manchester Road on the Isle of Dogs is closed because of an accident. On the M25 from Essex into Hertfordshire, there are long anti-clockwise delays from junction 27 for the M11 to roadworks a mile after junction 25 for the A10. On the M25 in Kent, there are queues each way passing junction 2 for the A2, and clockwise from junction 4 at Orpington to 5, with queues on the M26 joining there due to roadworks. In Devon, the A39 is blocked where a coach caught fire at Barbrook. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a fabulous £15,000 in tax-free cash to ensure this summer is special. What would you spend that on? Next, you'll also receive the latest iPhone 15 and a set of Apple AirPods. And finally, £500 to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Julian Assange walks free from Belmarsh prison.
The WikiLeaks founder agrees to an American plea deal.
He faces a judge tomorrow before returning to Australia, capping a dramatic 12-year legal battle.
Princess Anne continues her recovery in hospital, but worrying reports this morning reveal she may have memory problems after being injured by a horse.
Officers under investigation as the Met Police are accused of leaking the identities of Conservatives in the election betting scandal.
Rishi Sunak's blasted Sir Keir Starmer over migration, claiming illegal migrants are queuing up in Calais.
No EU U-turn from Labour as Starmer promises Brexit will be safe.
and heating up. We head outdoors and make the most of the summer heat wave, but just how long will it last?
Hot and sunny for many, but not for all today and tomorrow. How high will the temperatures climb? I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
And in the sport, England plays Slovenia tonight in the Euros, but what England will we see? Steve McManaman played in Euro 96 and 2000, joins us to tell us what he thinks. Italy scored a last-minute equaliser against Croatia last night, which pretty much puts them out of the Euros. And in cricket, England now know that on Thursday they'll be playing India in the T20 World Cup semi-final.
It's just gone 8 o'clock, or just after 8 o'clock. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast. Lots of comments this morning about why we're looking so smart. But it's worth reminding everybody that you very kindly, we hope, voted for us, and we're heading to the tricks. And it's a morning red carpet, or last year it was a pink carpet, wasn't it? So we're up for Best News Programme, you're up for Best Presenter, Nigel Farage is up for Best Presenter, Camilla Tominey's up for Best Interview. So it's a big showing for GB News.
I just get excited. I've got England playing Slovenia, and you for this. Come on, I don't want to
And
too
our
early.
programme, which you're a part of, Coity, never forget.
So when the speech happened, I'm going to, but
preemptive.
If it did, would it be, and I can't make it a special thanks for all the sport that has been so magnificent. Is that part of the speech?
All the time. All the time.
Is it part of the speech?
It's written in there. It's part of the contract.
I've got spies there. Yeah. Okay.
No. We do appreciate. You see, I know people look and they think, what contribution does he make to this?
I know
that. But I just want you to know, my friend, we couldn't do it without you.
Oh, now go on. Yeah.
But if we do win, you've got to come next year. I'm not having a no-show again next year.
Okay, fine.
All right?
Okay. I just didn't know what to wear. See, you look fabulous. I just didn't know
Right, into politics now. And the Metropolitan Police, they are facing scrutiny as they're alleged to have leaked the identities of Conservatives involved in the election betting scandal.
And away from that scandal, voters got to see more of Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer during the election showdown hosted by The Sun, where they were quizzed over everything from immigration to Brexit and trans rights.
We're now joined by our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Let's go to Catherine. Tell us more, Catherine.
Yes, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. This betting scandal just seems to go on and on. Every day there seems to be a new development. So today, The Telegraph are saying that in addition to the Prime Minister's close protection officer, who we know was arrested and is being investigated over an alleged bet on the date of the election, there's a further 5 police officers under investigation by the Gambling Commission, and a source in the Cabinet Office, has told The Telegraph that they believe that the identities that have been leaked of the 5 people close to the Prime Minister involved have been leaked by the Metropolitan Police. Would be quite astonishing if that turns out to be the case. Just to give you a quick recap, there's 2 candidates still out there campaigning to be elected in a week and a half's time as Conservative MPs, alleged to have made bets. One of them, Craig Williams, has admitted that and has apologised. Another, Laura Saunders, is married to Tony Lee, who's the director of campaigns. He's taken a leave of absence. Then another chap, Nick Mason, the chief data officer, has also taken a leave of absence. You really couldn't make this stuff up. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is resisting many calls to suspend these people as candidates, sticking to the line that there's an ongoing investigation and it must take its course. But politically, this is an absolute nightmare for Rishi Sunak. This campaign started badly with him in the rain, and it just seems to be going, to be honest, worse and worse and worse for them.
That being said, do you think he'll be pleased by how that sort of head-to-head debate with Harry Cole from The Sun went last night? I mean, he certainly seemed pretty sort of on the attack. Although I have to say, Nigel Farage this morning, truth-checking his claim that there were migrants queuing up in Calais waiting for Labour because there was this Rwanda deterrent. And according to Nigel's calculation anyway, that dinghy that he saw out in the Channel takes the number of illegal crossings since Sunak came into office over 50,000.
Yes, very embarrassing, that number for the Prime Minister, isn't it? But I think he will be happy. He was quite punchy, wasn't he? He did come out fighting. The verdict was that it was a draw. Of course, that's not going to be enough to shift the dial for him. But I think he is much more going on the attack now. We've seen it a couple of times now. He's actively going after Liz Truss. And her record. That's something that he was reluctant to do for a long time. But we've heard it a couple of times now saying, you know, look, I was right when I warned about what Liz Truss was going to do to the economy, that it was fantasy economics. And I'm right now about what I'm telling you about what a Labour majority would do and what Sir Keir Starmer's tax plans are. Sir Keir Starmer was pressed again, of course, as he is every time, over the fact that he campaigned twice to make Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister. And, you know, he said again, well, I didn't think he was going to win, but he went a bit further last night because he did say that basically he needed to be within the party because he knew that ultimately Corbyn would be out. And then, of course, he would be poised to take over the party, which indeed he has. And it looks very much like he will be Prime Minister in about 10 days' time.
Thanks, Catherine. Leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Let's talk about the Japanese state visit, which is underway. We go to Cameron Walker this morning for that because there will be no Princess Anne at the state banquet, the state dinner tonight, Cameron.
No, Eamonn, that's right. The princess thought to have spent her second night in hospital following the incident at the Gatcombe Park estate where she lives in Gloucestershire on Sunday night. Her medical team saying her injuries are consistent with impacts with a horse's head or legs. Buckingham Palace confirming she sustained minor injuries and has concussion. The Telegraph, meanwhile, reporting the princess is suffering from temporary memory loss. Now, we know an air ambulance was dispatched on Sunday night as part of the emergency services response. Her husband, Tim Lawrence, and her son and daughter were both on the estate at the time. It's not thought, we don't know who actually raised the alarm, but the princess was taken to Southmead Hospital by road, which is a major trauma centre. But the fact she was taken by road rather than flown in the air ambulance suggests the injuries were in fact minor, and Buckingham Palace insisting she is expected to make a full recovery, subject to, of course, medical advice. The princess, a keen horsewoman herself, she competed in the 1976 Olympic Games in an equestrian event. She also rode the King's Horse Noble just last week during Trooping the Colour, which she is still clearly consistently riding. But the Buckingham Palace spokesperson confirming, as you say, Eamonn, she will not be attending the state's banquet for the Japanese state visit tonight. She's also not going to be flying to Canada later this week. She was scheduled to take part in a royal tour of that country. I'm told the King is being kept closely informed of the princess's condition, but of course his eyes and his focus today is very much on hosting the Japanese Emperor and Empress for this long-awaited state visit. It was first postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic, and then of course there was a question mark whether or not it would be happening at all because of the general election, but it is going ahead. Prince William going to be picking the Emperor and Empress up from their hotel in central London later this morning and will take them to Horse Guards Parade for the British pomp and pageantry, the traditional welcome which I think the foreign heads of states grow accustomed to when they are invited to the United Kingdom for a state's visit. They will then travel up the Mall in carriages to Buckingham Palace with the King and the Queen, and will view artefacts of the Japanese history dating back 400 years from the Royal Collection Trust. That is how long the relationship has been between Japan and the British royal family. And then, of course, the state banquets this evening with all the pomp and pageantry that goes with that and the glitzy tiaras. But it is this state visit has been adapted because of the general election. So there's no visit to Downing Street. There's no speeches by the Emperor in Westminster Hall, where members of Parliament would usually listen to the visiting head of state. A foreign minister for Japan has said that it's not going to be a political visit. It's just about forging friendly relations across generations. That being said, both the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the leader of the opposition Sir Keir Starmer are expected to be guests at the state banquet this evening.
Cameron, can I just ask you in relation to Princess Anne? There's lots of commentary in the papers today about, whether or not it's time to rethink the slimmed-down monarchy. And we've been talking with Angela Levin and others this morning about, obviously, the fact that we've got the Princess of Wales still out of action largely, the King himself undergoing medical treatment for cancer, and now Princess Anne, who's obviously an absolute workhorse when it comes to royal engagements, out of action for the foreseeable. What are his options, the King, if he did decide that actually maybe it's time to bring a few others into the fold?
Yeah, the slimmed-down monarchy is looking a little bit increasingly fragile, isn't it, Isabel? As you say, the Princess Anne is the hardest working member of the royal family, if you go by the number of engagements. In terms of other royals stepping up to the fold, I think we've seen little hints of that over the last few months. Prince William called on his younger cousins to help him host a garden party at Buckingham Palace last month. We've seen Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenie, Zara, etc. at Ascot. So I think if there was any stepping up by minor members of the royal family, it would be in an unofficial capacity, so not becoming working members of the royal family, but just helping out where they can. And as you say, Isabel, it is needed at the moment because we have the Princess of Wales pretty much still out of action, the King still undergoing cancer treatment, and now Princess Anne, the hardest working royal, out of action as well. So it is very, very slim indeed on the week that the King meant to be hosting a state visit.
Cameron, thank you very much indeed. The time, 12 minutes past 8. Some other stories coming into the newsroom. A court has heard how a shopping centre security officer hatched a graphic plan to attack and plan to rape the TV presenter Holly Willoughby. He's Gavin Plum, 37 years of age, and he's accused of discussing this plan online, unaware that he was engaging with an undercover police officer. The trial's expected to continue for 2 weeks.
The search for missing British teenager Jay Slater is continuing on the Spanish island of Tenerife. The 19-year-old disappeared while on holiday last Monday. Yesterday, police were searching a village near the last location that his phone was traced to, but there's still no sign of him.
Chance to say hello, good morning, and find out what the weather is going to be doing today with Aidan McGivern.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny for many places in the south today, but cloudier, cooler in the north and with a few showers. We start the day with cloud cover across some western and northwestern parts of the UK. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland seeing a few spots of rain. By the afternoon, the weather responsible for that rain pushes into eastern Scotland, northern England, and could give a few showers, perhaps some longer spells of rain for northeastern parts of Scotland. Otherwise, widespread sunny skies for much of England and Wales, and rising temperatures 30 or 31 Celsius possible in some of the hotter spots. Later Tuesday, some of the heavier rain across northeast Scotland begins to clear, but it could last until the evening, and there'll be always the chance of a shower or two further west across Scotland and in the south, particularly over the southern uplands. It's drying up and clearing up across Northern Ireland, but for northern England, one or two sharp showers possible over the North Pennines, for example. Wales, central and southern England, though, plenty of sunshine. Particularly through the evening, actually, it's likely to become increasingly sunny as the sun starts to go down, and then clear skies overnight as the cloud and rain in the northeast starts to move into the North Sea. Always a chance of the odd shower continuing in one or two spots overnight, however, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder as well. But it's a warm night for many of us, 17 Celsius in some spots by dawn, and so it could be uncomfortable for sleeping. Nevertheless, for most, it's a fine start to Wednesday. Plenty of early morning sunshine. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, much of England and Wales. One exception, North East England, Eastern Scotland could see some low cloud and some mistiness around the coast. And there's the chance further west of a heavy, thundery downpour later as temperatures rise, and we're looking at highs into the high 20s, low 30s.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, this is the final week, and today is, what did I say, Tuesday? Tuesday. By Friday, it's going to be all over. If your chance to win our summer giveaway, which is 15,000 quid plus extras.
Yeah, here's how you could make it yours.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, up next, Julian Assange has been released from Brisbane, but what next for him?
Yes, find out after this.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
So there was a calf that was run down by a Surrey police car. It's now being nursed back to health, according to the family who own the farm that the calf escaped from.
Well, he didn't just run him over once, he ran him over twice.
No, we're not showing you the footage. The footage is really shocking. But the police officer who was driving this vehicle has now been taken off frontline duties until a full investigation is completed. And I feel like I'm yet again the only person in the country who thinks the police officer was just doing his job. That police officer, probably a young guy who's got dual carriageways left, right and centre in that area. Do you know what the most popular business is in that area in Feltham?
Farming.
McDonald's drive-through. It's got a queue round the block anytime you go around that area. And all those people queuing for McDonald's who are now outraged that this poor cow had to die.
Because it's going to be at McDonald's at some point.
At some point he was going to die. I'm really sorry. If you eat meat, you can't be upset by a cow dying. I think the fast roads with cars at 10 o'clock at night in the dark, they're not expecting a cow to walk out in the middle of the night. There would have been a massive pile-up. Then there'd been, like, who knows how many people dead. And then the police would have been criticised for not neutralising the threat.
The thing is, it was because he did... why... You could see the first time, the calf could barely stand up. I just don't get why I had to then go and do it a second time.
Well, I suppose at that point it's a bit like if you run over like a deer on the side of the road, you know, and if the police they're going to kill the animal to put it out of its misery. That's all I can presume. And the guy's not trained. This is Feltham. It isn't Texas. He's not going to come out with a lasso. He doesn't know what to do.
Where did this happen, Feltham?
Feltham. I'm sure the inbox is now going to be full of people saying, "Bev, you're outrageous. You lack compassion."
No, there will be people who agree with you. But if it had been done once, that was enough. But I don't think it needed to do it the second time.
GB News, the People's Channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party. I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
She could have said Stump.
you made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
The WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has landed in Bangkok this morning. He was released from prison in London yesterday.
It comes as a plea deal was reached with the United States. He's expected to appear at a US district court for the Northern Mariana Islands. That's an American territory in the Pacific Ocean tomorrow, before then returning to Australia.
Well, this is the end of a dramatic period for Assange, who spent the past 5 years behind bars after being evicted from the Ecuadorian embassy following a 7-year refuge there.
Well, earlier we spoke to the security expert, Will Geddes.
Basically, he had a lot of these particular charges against him, which is about 35 charges, particularly under Espionage Act in America, for fundamentally the release of these 10 million odd documents back in about 2010. Which obviously disclosed a lot of the CIA and military operations, which should have been kept confidential or top secret, if you like, in both Iraq and Afghanistan. And this has been pushed down to just one simple charge of espionage, which I believe President Biden has quite a lot of influence over in terms of reducing it to this single charge. And it's going to be heard in a court just off the Philippines before he's returned to Australia. But President Biden has also made a comment to the Australian authorities that he may very well exonerate Assange from any charges whatsoever.
Goodness me. And it's been so complicated, his sort of timeline, if we look back over what happened over the last 13 years. I mean, he was so many appeals, obviously incarcerated inside the Ecuadorian embassy for a period. We all remember all those visits from high-profile celebrities, including Pamela Anderson, going in there. He's been married whilst he's been behind bars. He's fathered 2 children. This is going to be, apart from anything else, on a personal level, a huge transition for him to make, to reintegrate back into society after experiencing what most people probably have never experienced.
Yes, I mean, certainly he's been through the mill, if we can call it that, in terms of obviously his defence against the various different charges made against him. Now, whether you agree or disagree, certainly in my world, I feel that there is a great level of responsibility that should be attributed to him in terms of the release of these confidential informations, which have obviously put, to a certain extent, operators on the ground, and not that the military or the intelligence agencies could, actually admit to it or confirm, because ultimately those operations are clandestine, and for them to confirm where those compromises may have taken place would compromise or even further some of their operations on the ground. So, he has been through the mill, the Ecuadorian embassy, as you mentioned, where he took safe harbor. He's got a very, very large swell of support from various individuals who are the believers in freedom of speech. And I myself, I'm also a believer in the freedom of speech. However, it's information and how it was acquired, which really is the questionable aspect in terms of the breach of the Espionage Act in the United States. But he is going into a safe harbor in Australia. Australia will take him back. He's probably in the safest part of the world possible in terms of those that would want retaliation for those compromises that he's already made, and also for this hearing to be held off the Philippines rather than in the United States or in the UK reduces the chances, obviously, for the media to cover it, and it allows him to control the optics to a certain extent.
And that was Will Geddes a little bit earlier for us here on GB News.
Right, we will head to the break. We've got this man right after that, Mr. Paul Coit.
Yes, Steve McManaman will join us. England winger, played in Euro 96, played in Euro 2000. We need some help. What's going on with England?
Would he get picked for this squad? That is the question. In what way would he be played?
Probably flaming
Does
goal.
he dare speak out against them, or might he be criticised by
We'll
Harry
see.
Kane?
We'll find out right after this very short break.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M62 in East Yorkshire, there's a lane closed eastbound where someone's broken down between junctions 36 and 37 from Goole to Howden. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, the outside lane's closed westbound when there's an accident between junctions 22 and 21 from Rishworth Moor to Milnrow. M65 in Lancashire's partly blocked westbound by an accident at junction 3 west of Blackburn. On the M1 in Northamptonshire, there are southbound queues towards roadworks just before junction 16 in Northampton. In London, on the A13, it's down to a single lane westbound. There's an accident at the Lodge Avenue junction at Barking with queues from Ferry Lane, Raynham. In Devon, the A39 is closed in both directions along Watersmeet Road at Barbrook after a coach caught fire. And also in Devon, on the A38, there's a lane closed westbound at the Lee Mill turn-off between Ivy Bridge and Plymouth after an accident causing queues, and that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do. His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
We'll be there.
This is GB News.
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
OK, it's me and Paul Coit, and we've got a friend to join us today.
Oh, yes, we have. So we're talking about the Euros, and England are playing Slovenia tonight. Who knows how this is going to go? I just don't know what's going on with the England team. Someone that will know, hopefully. No pressure on this. He played in Euro 96, played Euro 2000, Liverpool legend, and also your friend of Eamonn, being a big Manchester United fan, Steve McManaman. Morning, Steve.
Morning, Paul. You OK?
Yeah, listen, it's great to see you.
It was City he played for.
It was. I think he's slightly better known as being a Liverpool player.
Yeah.
But, you know,
but
if you want to call him a City player, I'm sure that'll...
He wasn't popular in Manchester.
I was being facetious there.
OK, I'm only joking.
Eamonn, I was. Listen, Steve, what do you make on what's going on? It seems that nobody's able to criticise. I mean, I stand with Lineker and stand with Alan Shearer. They should be able to say whatever they want. You know what it's like. You're a pundit as well, but also play for England. What do you make on what's going on?
Yeah, I think most players, when you've played the game, the players who are playing at this moment in time know, Paul, when they've had a bad game. And everybody everybody knows that the two performances that England have already produced haven't been good enough. I think that's fine to say. I think people have got to be in the bonnet because some of the rhetoric used by certain players after the event.
Yeah.
Of course, this is a new era we all live in now. People are trying to sell podcasts galore on the back of a lot of these games. So I think that's all it has been. There's some of the rhetoric that was used, but apart from that, you can't hide away from the fact that England have not been good enough. They qualified really comfortably. They qualified playing really well, but the first two games in this competition haven't been to the standard that we've seen from other teams in this competition, and that's all we're saying. In England, we go over the top either way. Before the tournament starts, we're favourites. I don't know why we were labelled favourites, but we were favourites. Now, after two games, we're the worst team in the competition. That's just the way we are. But I expect England to improve, but they need to improve quickly, and they need to be a lot better if they're going to match the likes of Spain and Germany, who've already put a marker down about how they play, the way they play, and their ability to get, to cut through teams and play really entertaining football.
But Steve, you ask how they play, the way they play. I look at a guy like you, a player like you, a winger like you, and I think, would you get into that team? Would you be allowed to enjoy yourself in that team? I don't know. You can answer the question for me.
You're right, Eamonn. Probably not. Probably not is the answer. Because if you look at the way Germany played, the two teams I just mentioned, you look at the way Spain played, they made 10 changes last night. We know how they're going to play. They're going to try and play with two wide men. They're going to have a centre forward. They're going to have two midfielders who come towards the ball. They know when to press. They know when the ball goes back to the goalkeeper, where they're going to move to give the goalkeeper 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. And then the last option is to kick it long. So we know what they're going to do, and they do it remarkably well. We look as if we play a lot of time off the cuff. Let's get a lot of players on there, and we'll just play and hope that something goes well. And that's how it's looked in the first few days. Jude Bellingham goes forward.
There's a word I'm going to use. This England team, and it should play with joy, but it doesn't seem to play with joy.
And the quality. I mean, the players that we have. And this is the thing I think that frustrates everybody, Steve, and probably you as well, is the fact that we have so much talent up front and we don't even seem to be playing to those strengths. And this is what confuses so many people.
Yeah, I think so. I think most people will agree with you all. I think the England players, if they watch this, they'd agree with you all. Foden's come off his best season ever. Harry Kane probably has. Jude Bellingham has. So you've got some remarkable individual performers in the team. It's just that we haven't been able to get it right.
But Steve, because we haven't got... Why haven't we been able to get it right? I mean, is that player problems or manager problems?
I think it might be a bit of both. I think, having a left-back who doesn't really play left-back hasn't helped the team, as in ability to get forward. I think players not playing particularly well, whether it's a confidence issue for them, Eamonn, I don't really know. Of course, I'm not there. Whether Gareth will change the team tonight and go with a couple of wingers to try and get crosses into Harry Kane to get the best out of him, I seriously think England will improve. I've seen this performance happen many, many times against lesser or so-called lesser opposition that we believe. And I think they will be better against better and stronger teams. I really do.
Do you?
But the caveat is they have to start playing well soon. They've already qualified. There's teams that are out on the way home. England have qualified after 2 games, so all is not lost. They just need to find their mojo that they had in qualifying, where they beat Italy quite comfortably, where they ran through teams quite comfortably. But it doesn't even mean that they're going to win the tournament. If you look at Portugal's squad, you look at German squad, it's better than England's, even though we think ours is good. If you go through it and you watch enough European football, we have not got the best squad. We've got a talented squad, a squad full of individual players who are excellent, but we haven't got the best squad. So it's a hard tournament to win. You need a huge slice of luck, but you do, and we still need to play a whole lot better than we've shown in these first 2 games.
It's a team game, I believe, this football. That's what it's all about, isn't it? It's a team game. Quick word, though, from you, though, Steve, about what this momentum thing's like. I always bang on about it with Isabel and with Eamonn about how important momentum is in tournament sport. You had that in Euro 96. Remember the start against Switzerland, and this is a disaster. There's you squirting Gaza there on the on the dentist chair, and then it went like that. So is there a chance we can expect something like this now?
Well, I mean, that's the big hope, isn't it, Paul? We hope it's tonight. We hope they play and they win 3, they win 4, and Harry scores 2, and Bellingham scores, and all the country suddenly go, wow, we've qualified in first place. We're going to play someone who finished in 3rd. Let's roll forward. That's what we want. We just don't want a damp squib tonight where they win 1-0, they top the group, and we're all morose going into the knockout stages. We want a huge performance, or a performance which galvanises the nation to a certain extent behind them, and let's roll forward. But as Gareth said yesterday in his press conference, he can't do anything about it. He picks the team, he thinks they're good enough. It's up to them to go out and show how good they are, because they're certainly better and more equipped than the opposition.
Well, I hope they win tonight. I hope they do very, very well in the tournament, and I hope they begin to play with joy. That's what we're looking at, a bit of joy.
Yeah, let's hope.
Expression. Yeah. Steve, great talking to you. Thanks for your time today, and hopefully
Cheers, everybody.
We'll link up again before the end of the tournament. Thank you very much indeed.
Why not? See you soon. Bye-bye. Have a lovely day.
Good. Okay. So we say goodbye. Absolutely terrific. We say goodbye to you. We say hello to Isabel, and you say what?
I say hello to the Shadow Minister without portfolio, Nick Thomas-Symonds for Labour. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. I want to kick straight off, if I can, with your sort of controversial views of the party announcing yesterday a review of your trans policies once or if you get into power. It's caused quite a lot of feathers to be ruffled, including a prominent writer quitting Labour yesterday over what they described as a betrayal of women for trans rights. We've also had J.K. Rowling saying she couldn't trust Labour with safe spaces for women. How are you going to persuade people that this is a good policy? You've got people like Rishi Sunak saying this would create loopholes that would be exploited by bad faith actors.
Well, first of all, very good morning, and always good to join you on your programme. Just in respect of J.K. Rowling for a moment, I will address the substantive issue, but just to say I've got great respect for J.K. Rowling, and she's achieved an extraordinary amount in her career. But let me just deal with the policy here, because we've talked about a comprehensive trans-inclusive ban on conversion therapy. And what we're talking about banning there is somebody who deliberately, coercively, if you like, wants to try and change what a person is. What we're not talking about is where people in a very difficult time in their lives are getting support, whether that is support from a religious leader, whether that is support from their teacher, whether that is support, pastoral support, loving support within the family setting. So the point we are making is that there is a distinction, a real distinction, between conversion therapy, which has an extraordinarily bad effect on people, and legitimate counselling, legitimate support, which we will protect in legislation we bring forward.
My question wasn't actually about conversion therapy, although obviously that is an interesting point that you're making today. But my question was in relation to the changes to school curriculum, where you want to review the number of genders that are being taught in schools. And the Conservatives have said that you keep claiming there is partisan and unnecessary language in the guidance that's been drafted. And they want to know what partisan language. Have you actually even read it?
Well, I want to know exactly what the Conservatives are talking about, because the guidance as it stands is talking about the teaching to children that trans people, the trans community, actually exist, and that we should treat them with a great deal of respect, as you would anybody else. That's my position. That's a perfectly sensible position, and that should be taught in an age-appropriate way. It's the Conservatives who are going around saying they want to, quote, ban the teaching of gender identity in schools. They should tell us exactly what they mean. Are they saying that people should not be taught at an age-appropriate moment, of course, that trans people exist? I think they're completely misrepresenting what our position is.
And specifically on the issue of changing gender, which you've also said that you want to review it, the Conservatives are concerned. They said this is a massive life-changing decision, and you're making it as easy as getting a prescription, i.e. on the say-so of one medical professional, and that's what your plans would enable.
No, that's complete nonsense. We're not in favour of, the self-ID as they suggest, and we will always protect women-only safe spaces. What we have said is that What we have said is that the process should be one where we give people dignity, respect and support. So just to give you an example, at the moment, you have to have what's called a proof that you've lived in your acquired gender for 2 years. Now, we are saying instead of that proof, what we would have is a 2-year period of reflection. That doesn't mean immediate self-ID, which is somehow what the Conservatives are talking about and completely misrepresenting the position. What we are talking about is a 2-year period of reflection, which, by the way, would also mean, that's why we still say the medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria is so important, that people can get the support that they need at a very vulnerable moment in their lives. And that's something I would hope all parties could agree on, frankly.
Can I ask you about some of the questions that Sir Keir Starmer was facing last night at that special event hosted by the Sun newspaper? He was asked repeatedly about his claims in 2019 that Jeremy Corbyn would make a good Prime Minister. Was he lying?
No, and Keir Starmer has always set out his position on this. And he was somebody, I've known Keir Starmer for many, many years. Keir Starmer was not somebody, obviously, who backed Jeremy Corbyn for the leadership in 2015 or 16, and neither did I. But he was someone who was, if you like, fighting from within, was making his voice heard at that time on the front bench, and has then comprehensively changed the Labour Party since 2019. As Keir has said on a number of occasions, when you suffer a defeat like that, the worst since 1945, you can either look at the electorate or you can look at yourselves. And what Keir Starmer has done is got the Labour Party to look at itself, and he's moved it decisively back towards the priorities of voters, put it back in the service of working people. And that's why we're asking people for their trust next week in the ballot box. He's changed the party.
So you talk about trust, but you're avoiding my question. I didn't ask you if he'd changed the party. I asked you if he's changed his mind or if he was lying. He said in 2019 that he thought he would make a great Prime Minister. Which is it?
Well, I think what Keir was trying to do in an election that, let's be frank, none of us expected to win, was to try to go out there to make the case for excellent Labour candidates up and down the country, to try to make sure we had as many members of Parliament as we could, so that we could recover and become contenders for government. But in terms of Keir over the last 5 years and the journey of change he's led the party on, I think is absolutely remarkable. The party's unrecognisable from 2019, and that is why we now say to voters, look, Keir Starmer has changed the party. He seeks your trust to change the country.
Finally, I need to ask you about Paul Johnson's comments yesterday, the director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies, and he levelled the same allegations at the Conservatives as he did at you, saying that you were essentially part of a conspiracy of silence on tax, ignoring some of the big challenges facing the economy, and that many of your pledges to improve public services are essentially unfunded. Was he wrong?
I actually think that the distinction here is that the Institute for Fiscal Studies is having to just look into the future without spending plans, departmental spending plans beyond March 2025, because the Conservatives haven't set them out. Now, we obviously can't do that from opposition. We need to open the books. We have been very straight with people as to the difficult choices and the difficult inheritance that's going to face an incoming government. In terms of tax, we've set out very clearly, whenever we've made a pledge, we've been very specific about how it would be funded. And you're quoting the Institute for Fiscal Studies. In terms of our plan for growth, the Institute for Fiscal Studies commented specifically on our planning reforms, our proposed planning reforms, and actually said all power to our elbow on that. And of course, what will happen if we are privileged enough to form a government? The IFS is basing that at the moment on the Office for Budget Responsibility snapshot from earlier this year. If we are privileged enough to get into government, we will set out our growth plans. The Office of Budget Responsibility will then look at those new growth plans of stability, investment and reform. And of course, then, with proper spending plans into the future done responsibly, the Institute for Fiscal Studies can look again, as no doubt it will.
We've got to leave it there. Nick Thomas-Symonds, thanks very much indeed for your time. Labour candidate and also a member of the Shadow Cabinet. Thank you.
Bit of time to delve into the papers and what's been said there. Emma Burnell, Alex Armstrong, right after this.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Recent polling suggests dentistry has become the hardest NHS service for patients to access, within NHS treatments still 15% lower than pre-pandemic levels. So a YouGov survey reveals that more than 70% of Brits describe seeing the dentist as difficult, compared with 64% for GPs and 42% for A&E services. One British man, get this, he even took to flying 10,000 miles for dental care, saying the extra time and money spent was far less hassle than trying to get an appointment on the NHS. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. And a shocking 1/5 of UK adults have also admitted to trying DIY dentistry, including the old trick of tying string around a wobbly tooth and slamming it in the door so it comes out. So, should people be more careful when taking their teeth into their own hands?
That is one of the problems. Obviously, population growth makes it much more difficult for people to access NHS services, but they need to then catch up on the other side with dental services and increase the amount of dentists and access to dentistry, and especially NHS dentistry, obviously.
What's the cut-off age for free dentistry on the NHS?
So it is 18 years old, but there are exemptions around maternity, pregnancy. There's some free care around pregnancy.
We saw some data a few weeks back about the number one cause for child admission into A&E is tooth decay. I mean, that was shocking when I read it.
It's really bad, and what happens is people, kids with multiple decayed teeth, they basically have to be put under general anaesthetic, and then all those rotted teeth have to be extracted under general anaesthetic. Like, if those baby teeth start going crooked, then the adult teeth start going crooked as well. So it is important to look after the baby teeth. It's really important. I think they should make it more central to their policies, definitely.
The People's Channel.
I'm Simon Evans, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
We've got Emma and we've got Alex back to talk about stories making the news today. And Kemi Badenoch, Alex, has hinted at a potential Conservative leadership bid. She's got an big interview in the Daily Express today.
Yes, she has indeed. This is sort of a heating up now as we come towards the end of 14 years of Conservative reign. More than likely, you never know, miracles may happen. But, you know, Badenoch has indicated, she hasn't said that she would like to be Prime Minister. She's saying she would maybe consider it.
I must say, we you know, people come along and names are mentioned in for these positions and whatever. And a number of interviews we have conducted with her on the programme here, she is very impressive.
Yeah, she's an extremely intelligent woman indeed, and also polls quite well with the party, particularly of the right of the party, which seems to be the part of the Conservative Party that is going to reform. So maybe she does seem like the odds-on winner. But we're also seeing other senior Tories like James Cleverly, who is also indicating he might be up for the job as well.
But his seat is highly dodgy, as is Penny Mordaunt's, as is Grant Shapps. So it feels to me like this is really a race between Jenrick, Badenoch. Who am I missing out?
Possibly Suella
Braverman. So those three.
The right.
Who knows? She could end up going to Reform or whatever.
Correct.
Who knows?
Yeah. Big names will likely stay in their seats, even if it looks dodgy, because they've got that name recognition. But we'll see.
Emma, I want to talk about prisons, prison staffing in crisis, and we can talk about building more prisons, but there are not enough staff to retain, keep and run the existing prisons. And a lot of that's got to do with, I think, how these staff are treated and the pressures that there are on them. Tell us more.
So there are pressures from two different directions. In addition to the story in the Times today, there's a letter out from the Prison Officers Union which says we may be 2 days away from complete collapse in the prison system. Essentially, lots and lots of prison guards are quitting because of the conditions that they're working in.
And the amount of prison guards who are having relationships.
Well, this is it. So, at the same time as good prison officers are quitting, you've also got, it says here, 9,000 prison guards have been disciplined for misconduct over the past decade. So there is clearly a very, very broken system that is not working for anybody.
Look, I reckon you look at this as a job or a career, and we were younger and said, well, would you like to be a prison guard? Nowadays, the answer would be no way, Jose.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely not.
No, I mean, it's terrible conditions, not great pay, very little respect in the workplace, and at the same time, you could, if you're a good person trying to do your job well, trying to be part of the rehabilitation process, which is always forgotten about when we talk about prisons, you watch your colleagues dealing drugs, setting up intimate relationships, and you just think, why am I trying so hard to be the good guy, and I'm going to go off and do something more rewarding.
Yeah, 100%. What about this? How are we doing for time?
Nigel Farage, he says the Conservatives are creating a whole big hoo-ha and row as a distraction, Alex. His analysis of the Putin situation and why we're at where we're at with the war with Ukraine.
Yeah, well, I actually do agree with Nigel Farage about this, because the Russia card is rolled out, and every single time it looks like the establishment parties are having a bad day. We saw it with Brexit.
He brought it up. I mean,
well, he was right. What I'm saying is they're calling him a Putin sympathiser, which I think is unfair to say. If you're a mainstream politician, you can't critique or use critical thinking to say, did we do something potentially wrong, or did we do something that may have antagonised this war? If we're not able to say that, then we're going to head in a very poor direction.
You can ask the question, but the answer is no. And frankly,
but that's a subjective answer.
Parroting the Kremlin's lines.
But he's not parroting the Kremlin's lines. He has a political analysis which the Western media fail to cover in the years ahead and say, look at how bad this situation is. We've got to think about what way we're making Russia feel overall.
I'm sorry, but in the same way that I don't think you can say it about a domestic violence situation, they provoked it is never a good excuse.
But that's not what...
And the other thing... victim blaming of the worst order.
The other thing I would like to say...
to have a British voice echoing Putin's justifications for war. That's the Home Secretary saying that. You've got the former head of NATO saying, stop cuddling up to the Kremlin.
Well, they would say that because they've created the problem. We're simply trying to say, stand back here, analyse this situation from a political, geopolitical point of view.
But
Andy has got a point with
Can I just say, in terms of this story that we're covering now, the idea that it's a distraction technique, how patronising is that to the voters who are perfectly capable of talking about both these issues?
Let's look at the evidence. As soon as this gambling row starts, the Putin sympathiser card gets rolled out all over the weekend, all over the Daily Mail. Why not the Daily Mail splashing this on their front?
After the gambling scandal started,
and it was because
he said it.
It's a much bigger scandal to have people who are standing for election about to be voted on by the public, potentially with the police leaking these election interference, than Farage criticising something of our actions. It's a far bigger story.
I'm perfectly capable of criticising both, and frankly, I don't want someone in our Parliament that is that sympathetic to our enemies.
Well, I just see him as being analytical, which is a different thing.
I couldn't disagree more.
Right, so where do you stand on cheddar cheese, Alex?
Love it.
Yes, absolutely. One
There
thing
you
we
go,
can
we
agree
agree
on.
at last.
We can all Brits can agree on cheddar cheese, right? It's been our favourite cheese for 1,000 years. I don't know how they get the data back 1,000 years ago, but 42% of people choose to buy cheese every single week. Cheddar cheese every single week.
And it's a big export.
So I don't drink milk, and I'm allowed a certain amount of dairy a day on my Slimming World plan, so I get 2 lots of cheese.
Well, there you are.
Lucky.
Have a very good day doing that. Emma and Alex, pleasure talking to both of you. Thank you very much indeed.
Here's Aidan McGivern with the weather.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny for many places in the south today, but cloudier, cooler in the north and with a few showers. We start the day with cloud cover across some western and northwestern parts of the UK. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland seeing a few spots of rain. By the afternoon, the weather front responsible for that rain pushes into eastern Scotland, northern England, and could give a few showers, perhaps some longer spells of rain for northeastern parts of Scotland. Otherwise, widespread sunny skies for much of England and Wales, and rising temperatures 30 or 31 Celsius possible in some of the hotter spots. Later Tuesday, some of the heavier rain across northeast Scotland begins to clear, but it could last until the evening, and there'll be always the chance of a shower or two further west across Scotland and in the south, particularly over the southern uplands. It's drying up and clearing up across Northern Ireland, but for northern England, 1 or 2 sharp showers possible over the North Pennines, for example. Wales, central and southern England, though, plenty of sunshine. Particularly through the evening, actually, it's likely to become increasingly sunny as the sun starts to go down, and then clear skies overnight as the cloud and rain in the northeast starts to move into the North Sea. Always a chance of the odd shower continuing in 1 or 2 spots overnight, however, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder as well. But it's a warm night for many of us, 17 Celsius in some spots by dawn, and so it could be uncomfortable for sleeping. Nevertheless, for most, it's a fine start to Wednesday. Plenty of early morning sunshine. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, much of England and Wales. One exception, northeast England, eastern Scotland could see some low cloud and some mistiness around the coast. And there's the chance further west of a heavy thundery downpour later as temperatures rise, and we're looking at highs into the high 20s, low 30s.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M42 from Staffordshire into Warwickshire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between junctions 10 and 9 from the A5 at Tamworth to the Curdworth and Coleshill turn. It's taking around 3/4 of an hour in the queues towards there, and also slow northbound past the scene. In Pembrokeshire, the A4076 is closed each way along Stainton Road at Milford Haven for an investigation. In London, on the A13, it's down to a single lane westbound when there's an accident at Lodge Avenue junction at Barking, with queues towards there from Rainham Marshes. In Dorset, the A31 is partly blocked westbound by an accident at the Ashley Heath interchange at St Ives, causing queues. In Devon, the A39 is closed along Watersmeet Road at Barbrook after a coach caught fire. Also in Devon, on the A38, there's a lane closed westbound at Lee Mill after an accident with queues towards Plymouth. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, cash. Text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides
as you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel. Britain's election channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Julian Assange walks free from Belmarsh prison.
And to freedom. The WikiLeaks founder agrees to an American plea deal.
He faces a judge tomorrow before returning to Australia, capping a dramatic 12-year legal battle.
Princess Anne continues her recovery in hospital, but worrying reports as she reveals she may have memory problems after being injured by a horse.
Details have emerged of an air ambulance being dispatched to the princess's home on Sunday night. Meanwhile, the king is being kept fully informed ahead of the state visits of Japan. More details shortly.
Officers under investigation as the Met Police is accused of leaking the identities of Conservatives caught up in the election betting scandal.
Rishi Sunak has blasted Keir Starmer over migration. He claims illegal migrants are queuing up in Calais.
No EU U-turn from Labour. Sir Keir Starmer promises Brexit will be safe.
Heating up. We head outdoors and make the most of the summer heatwave, but just how long will it last?
Hot and sunny for many, but not for all today and tomorrow. How high will the temperatures climb? I'll have the full details in the forecast coming up soon.
Right, after 9 o'clock now, good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
A lot of support for Princess Anne this morning. People calling her a true legend, the hardest working member of the royal family. I have to say a few good things about her. Here in Yorkshire, we're praying for a quick recovery for her. That's from Margaret. Eunice says, I hope Princess Anne makes a full recovery. She's a hard worker, isn't she? And we can't afford to lose her.
Yeah, lots of people saying it's looking like a very slimmed down monarchy. Let us know your thoughts this morning.
As you say, who's left? Who's?
Well, there's William and there's Edward and Sophie.
Well, what would you bring Harry back? No. OK.
How long have you got?
Then there's Andrew's two girls.
Yeah, I think they'd make a great contribution.
They would be good.
I'm sure Fergie would love to get back involved. And you know what? I don't know what age, actually, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh's children are now, Edward and Sophie, but they are sort of coming of age. They might be able to get involved as well. So who knows? But I think it's time possibly to expand the numbers of people involved.
OK.
Or is available. If they need any help.
Always available. All the politicians are available. They're all campaigning. Let's go to our political correspondent, Catherine Foster, today to tell us what they'll be doing today. Catherine, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning. So Labour today talking about knife crime, the Conservatives about migration and the Lib Dems about social care. So Labour, first of all, Sir Keir Starmer is on a visit in London, all about tackling knife crime. He says that it's going to be a moral mission for Labour to bring this down. He says there'll be a yearly summit to look at how much progress they're making or not making. He says that there'll be a cross-party coalition of ministers, campaigners and tech executives to tackle this. But I think he will get quizzed on Labour's record in London, because knife crime in the capital is up 38% since Labour Mayor Sadiq Khan came in, and he famously said that it would take a generation to tackle this. That will not come as any comfort at all to the families of all those who have died in recent years. So that's what Labour are talking about. The Conservatives, well, the Prime Minister is greeting the Japanese emperor, who of course is on a state visit, but the Conservatives are wanting to talk about migration. Now, it looks like the number of people that will have crossed the channel illegally since Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister is shortly going to hit 50,000. So very embarrassing indeed. But they want to talk about flights going to Rwanda and also legal migration. That's currently well over 600,000. They say they're going to put a cap on that, and they're going to bring it down soon, if they're still in office, they say, to about half of that. The Lib Dems, meanwhile, well, we'll have to see what stunts Ed Davey gets up to today, but they want to talk specifically about care. Of course, this is something very close to his heart. He was a carer for his mother when he was very young. He and his wife are now carers for their very severely disabled son John. So that is sort of the USP, if you like, of the Lib Dems, along with, of course, tackling water pollution. So that's what we can expect from all the parties today.
Catherine, thank you.
Excellent. Right, let's now go to Cameron Walker. We're going to get the latest on Princess Anne. Japanese state visit today, but she'll play no role, no part in that, Cameron.
No, she won't, Eamonn. She has, we think, spent her second night in hospital following her injuries on Sunday evening at her home in Gloucestershire, thought to involve a horse. Her medical team saying her injuries are consistent with impacts from a horse's head or indeed legs. Buckingham Palace confirmed injuries. The Telegraph reporting she has temporary memory loss. Now, we know an air ambulance was on Sunday evening as part of that.
Well, that's rather unfortunate there. There's a big black shadow going over Cameron's face, which seems to be blocking his picture and sound as well.
But he was obviously outside Buckingham Palace giving us an update on Princess Anne. And as he was saying, the palace have said that she does have head injuries consistent with either having been headbutted or kicked by a horse. An air ambulance took her from her estate in Gloucestershire to Southmead Hospital, where we think she is still there. Expected to make a full recovery. Speculation in the Telegraph that she's suffering a little bit of memory loss. But of course, this comes at a time when the Japanese emperor and empress are in town for the state visit. We understand Prince William will be picking them up from their hotel, taking them to Horse Guards Parade and then processing up the Mall with the King and Queen for the state banquet later on. So lots of British pomp and pageantry, but no Princess Anne today, sadly.
And it just shows you can never trust a horse. You just never
Even
know.
when you're a very capable rider, as she is, having ridden for Great Britain in the Olympics and being on a horse just last weekend, trooping the colour.
Well, I'm a great Western fan, and all the major cowboys on screen, the James Stewarts, the John Waynes and whatever it is, none of them trusted their horse, or they only ever got the same horse. They had particular horses which had to be with them for 20 years or so on the screen, but the horses were not to be trusted. Very unpredictable creatures.
Yes, indeed. And we may never know exactly what happened here because she doesn't seem to recall the incident. Very worrying, but we will keep abreast of all of that. And, of course, Cameron Walker, hopefully we can reconnect that and hear from him a little bit later on the channel.
Now, the other story making big news this morning, because this only happened in the early hours of the morning, is that WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been released from prison. He's flying out to some islands off the coast of America, but he's in, where is he this morning? Bangkok this morning. And so this is all about a plea deal. After listening to all that he's had to say for years and years and years, he's now out of confinement. And we're going to find out where he's heading to now.
Yes, well, let's get the latest then from our reporter Ray Addison, who's outside the Australian High Commission in London. And Ray, we understand his ultimate destination is going to be Australia, but he's likely to have some pretty significant security for the foreseeable.
Absolutely. Well, we know that after spending 5 years at Belmarsh High Security Prison, he was released yesterday afternoon after being granted bail by the High Court here in London, which actually is just about 50 metres away from the Australian High Commission where I stand now. Now, this development follows negotiations with the United States Department of Justice over a plea deal, details of which we understand are yet to be finalised. Now, in a statement on X, Assange's organisation WikiLeaks said that he'd been taken to Stansted Airport yesterday afternoon, where he boarded a plane and departed the United Kingdom. Now, his ultimate destination is the Mariana Islands. That's a US Commonwealth in the Western Pacific, and we understand that tomorrow morning Assange will appear in a federal court there to plead guilty to an Espionage Act charge of conspiring to unlawfully obtain and disseminate classified national defence information. He will then be sentenced, presumably either to time served or some other kind of house arrest deal, and will return to his home country of Australia. And of course, this has been a long time coming. It follows 13 years of efforts by the United States to put Assange on trial under the Espionage Act. Of course, he has been accused through WikiLeaks of releasing hundreds of thousands of classified US military documents involving the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and putting the lives of sources and agents at risk. And of course, he had faced 175 years in prison. Now, so what has changed? Well, in May, Assange won a bid at the High Court here in London to bring an appeal against his extradition to the US after arguing that he may not receive a fair trial because, as he isn't a US citizen, he may not be able to use the right to freedom of speech, the First Amendment, as part of his argument, as part of his defence. Now, that was hailed by his supporters, and he has many all over the world, from grassroots campaigners, journalists, legislators as well. That was hailed as a major victory at the time, and it may have prompted this unique situation that we see here. Now, the decision has been welcomed by the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. He's told the Parliament there that we want him brought home, and WikiLeaks have said that after more than 5 years in a 2-by-3 metre cell, isolated 23 hours a day, he will soon reunite with his wife Stella and their children, who have only known their father from behind bars. And his wife, Mrs. Assange, has posted as well, saying, "Words cannot express our immense gratitude." But first, before he can make his way to Australia, we have this this plea hearing on this US island, and then hopefully he will be on his way home.
OK, Ray, thanks very much for bringing us up to date.
And we're going to bring you up to date now on this, the final week of our giveaway competition. Let's see how you could do. £15,000 available in cash plus extras.
Yeah, here's how you could do it.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, cash. Text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed, because a heat wave is on the way. You could probably do with that bit of cash. It's sweeping across the UK over the next few days, and we'll be telling you all about it next.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
You'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
History lecturers at the University of Liverpool have been advised to problematise whiteness and heterosexuality in their seminars. They are saying that you should be guilty if you're white and heterosexual. Not using the long words they use, but that's kind of what they're saying.
Yeah, but do you know what? History in this country is concerned with more and has been lived by more white people and more heterosexuals, right? And that's the history. I'll tell you something else, Dawn. This is Russell Group University material here. This is Liverpool. It's a really good university. Mm-hmm. The thing that really got me going apart from this, and I thought it was an AI generation of words input into a system to come up with from something. It's ridiculous. The main issue I have is the verb problematise. I've never heard of that before. Yeah. So they should be prioritising grammar. Let's get first principles back in there firstly.
It's just promoting anti-racism.
It's not, Amy.
It is, wait. It's just bringing the marginalised voices into the discussion. So,
no, what they're saying is look at British history through the optic of...
all perspectives. So let's look at it from the perspective of a queer person growing up. Let's look at it from the perspective of somebody from...
But that's not the majority.
When I actually looked at the evidence, it's all about unpacking bias. And you have to admit there has been a white bias in history.
No, there hasn't, because the facts...
From a white perspective...
Amy, the facts are, in history, most people in this country are white and heterosexual.
Of course, but then there's still...
So that's the history.
...voices that deserve to be brought into the discussion as much as the dominant...
Look,
like, that's all decolonising the curriculum is hearing all sides of the argument. Surely we at GB News love. We celebrate that. That's what we do.
We do, but we're not telling anybody it's bad to be white or it's bad to be...
Exactly. That is not what...
Amy, it is. It is.
Amy.
The People's Channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Now, we're British, aren't we? We love to talk about the weather, and more than that, we love to complain about the weather. We've had a wet winter. We've all been longing for summer. Now it's arrived, and everybody's panicking that the temperatures are going to be too high. People are going to be dying.
I'm not panicking.
Plenty of people are, or at least the papers are. So, yeah, we're expected to experience the highest temperatures of the summer so far, and yellow heat health alerts have been issued across most of England.
OK, let's go to our reporter, Will Hollis. Will is in Burton-on-Trent. There's a lot of water behind him there. Paint the picture for us, William. Where are you? Why are you there?
Good morning. Yes, bright and beautiful, pretty much clear skies here in Burton-on-Trent. Lots of swans as well as ducks in the background. But we're here today talking about what happens when you do get this beautiful, bright weather that many people will celebrate. But it does mean that the government and public health bodies do have to put in warnings, particularly for vulnerable people, for older people, people in care or being looked after by the NHS. Right now, temperatures here are expected to get to around 28 degrees, not the national high, which is expected to be around 30 degrees. This is the lowest level of heat health alert warnings in the traffic light system that the UK Health Security Agency and the Met Office put together when we do start to experience warmer weather between June and September, as well as cold health alerts between the colder months, November and March. It is only a yellow, which means that vulnerable people need to take a little bit more care, make sure that they're drinking plenty of fluids as well as staying in cool places. Family members and relatives checking up on their more vulnerable people. But as well, lots of people out enjoying the sun, so they might be having bare skin in the sunlight, something that we haven't had for quite a few months after a much colder start to summer. So there's also warnings about wearing sun cream as well. We haven't had the best of summers so far, but with a bit of nice weather and clear skies expected to last until Thursday. This is a 4-day heat wave in some places, meeting the criteria that the Met Office sets for a heat wave. This yellow heat health alert is in place in 8 of the 9 English regions, so a lot of people are being warned just to be a little bit more careful, but we're not at the stages yet where it is so hot that it starts to affect the NHS as a whole or much wider groups, or the things that we need to do, for example, travelling around between work and places of interest, which we do when it's hot summer months.
Time at 9:20 on this Tuesday morning, Will. Are you feeling the atmosphere? Are you feeling that it's going to be a good day? How are you coping out there so early?
He's not undone his shirt untied just yet.
Well, maybe in another 5 degrees or so, I would have to maybe take off the blazer. It is bright in my eyes right now. If I stayed here for about 10 or 20 minutes, I imagine my face would start to burn. It is not necessarily hot temperatures yet, but the sunlight in my eyes is quite glaring, and I imagine if I stayed in one place, I would start to feel the effects of that. Lots of people going around in shorts and T-shirts. I'm in a fantastic park here in Burton-on-Trent, which is in Staffordshire, quite close to the Derbyshire border. People have been coming over and asking what we're doing here, and we're saying it's such a fantastic, beautiful day that we thought we better get out with the River Trent in the background, as well as doing a bit of the public service and getting that message out there that the public health authorities think that it's now hot enough, we now have enough warm weather, that we should be warning people, particularly those vulnerable ones, about those risks.
Good enough. Well, stay careful and at the same time enjoy the day, Will. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. We've got Beverly and we've got Andrew, Britain's newsroom at 9:30. What's tickling your fancy today?
Well, this new set is rather tickling my fancy. My first day back. Marvellous.
Very sleek. I'll tell you what's tickling my fancy, our ex-husband, if you pardon the expression, because he said what a lot of Tories are saying, that the Tory campaign is hopeless. He used an expression we can't use on this set to describe the shambles over the betting scandal. Quite simple. If you've admitted, as Craig Williams has, the Prime Minister's Parliamentary Private Secretary, to putting a bet on the date, in receipt of privileged information, should be suspended. The cop's been suspended. Why not him?
Well, I put the point that James Cracknell made to the government this morning, and they said, we share his frustration. But he summed it up so perfectly. If teammates got caught for cheating, they'd be dead to me.
Yeah.
Yes, the world can be a little black and white to my ex-husband at times, I think it's fair to say. And also, you know, I quite like MPs who are honest. I've always thought the risk with James going into politics was that he would not be able to toe the party line 100%. But I quite like there being some mavericks in politics that don't always get pushed around. I'm messaging him to see if he'll come on the show and talk to us about it this morning.
Great.
I was talking about Julian Assange, of course. Who saw that coming?
Who cares?
Well, he's gone. Good riddance.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Are you
good
like
riddance.
me on it? I sit and I look. And the idea that he represents journalism, he's not a journalist. And, you know, this idea that he's saving all our bacons from something, it's just...
Costing us a lot of money, he was.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He should be locked up and thrown in prison.
Well,
No, I disagree, Eamonn. I disagree.
He's put people's lives at risk.
Well, I think
with...
some people say their lives have been lost because of what
It
he put
should
out there.
never have dragged on for this long. A decision should have been made much more quickly than this. But he would say that he was in
But he's plea bargained.
Truth.
He's pleaded guilty.
Yeah, he's pled guilty to one charge and got a nice ticket to Australia.
But I think you're right.
I hope it's a single ticket.
I'm not sure people really care that much about Julian Assange. It has been going on for so long, and I think even, you know, I don't know whether most people really even are aware of the backstory of the Julian Assange story.
We should also say the reason that we're all so dressed up was we're off to the tricks a little bit later on, and I had to send an SOS to you, Bev. I don't know what time this morning I sent that, 5 a.m. When I realised I'd forgotten my top to go underneath my suit. And you very kindly saved the day.
I've brought you a selection.
Thank you
Isabel.
so much.
They're hanging up in the wardrobe.
Thank
they
you
probably
so
aren't
much.
as nice as the
now
one you
I've
had lined
seen
up.
you, I want to go home and start all
Eamonn, now what about you? What about your top?
Well, you see,
this is what I need to know.
I'm glad
about.
you've got everything because I couldn't offer you a selection at any stage.
But also, should we just have a moment of self-congratulation here for GB News for getting this far in such a short space of time? Nominated for awards today. I've no doubt you're going to win. Here we are, amazing new studio, onwards and upwards.
Oh, thanks, Bev. Well, fingers crossed.
That's
and
nice.
Have a great show.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll let you
the
know.
awards.
Thank you very much.
Right, well, we'll be back tomorrow. We've got a busy day. We'll keep you posted on how it goes.
Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow with an award. See you then.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny for many places in the south today, but cloudier, cooler in the north and with a few showers. We start the day with cloud cover across some western and northwestern parts of the UK. Northern Ireland, Western Scotland seeing a few spots of rain. By the afternoon, the weather front responsible for that rain pushes into eastern Scotland, northern England, and could give a few showers, perhaps some longer spells of rain for northeastern parts of Scotland. Otherwise, widespread sunny skies for much of England and Wales, and rising temperatures 30 or 31 Celsius possible in some of the hotter spots. Later Tuesday, some of the heavier rain across northeast Scotland begins to clear, but it could last until the evening, and there'll be always the chance of a shower or two further west across Scotland and in the south, particularly over the southern uplands. It's drying up and clearing up across Northern Ireland, but for northern England, one or two sharp showers possible over the North Pennines, for example. Wales, central and southern England, though, plenty of sunshine. Particularly through the evening, actually, it's likely to become increasingly sunny as the sun starts to go down, and then clear skies overnight as the cloud and rain in the northeast starts to move into the North Sea. Always a chance of the odd shower continuing in one or two spots overnight, however, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder as well. But it's a warm night for many of us.